Well, before we kick off this episode, I got to tell you, Nature Bee have come up with something dangerous. Their new Power Bee Bite Bars. Chocolate caramel or peanut honey choc chip. They taste so good, you're going to forget they're healthy. Packed with protein, boosted with power pollen, they're perfect for the road, perfect for the shed, perfect for the man cave, perfect anytime you need a quick lift. And they're paired beautifully with your daily power pollen capsules to create the ultimate wellness routine. Links are in the description right now, but stick around, I'll tell you more.
In a world where voices are silenced,
Please.
one man refuses to lie down.
It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
He's been punted not once,
40 years they've been trying.
not twice,
You couldn't fire somebody if they were horrible, doing a terrible job.
but 3 times.
You're fired.
He doesn't tell you what to think, but gives you something to think about. Welcome to the Bonafide podcast with Luke Boner. And he's not
All right, here we go.
done
Hold your ears, folks.
yet.
It's showtime.
Well, g'day folks and welcome to episode 55. Episode 55 already here on the Bonafide podcast. Nice to know you're listening. I don't know what time of day it is. It doesn't matter, but wherever you are here in Australia or around the big wide world, thank you for your company, and hopefully we will continue to deliver you something to think about and something to listen to. And we love your suggestions, and we'll tell you how to do that a little bit later on. The glitch bitch is with me, the millennial. She got the thing working today. I thought we were going to have to call for a tow truck today, Kelsey,
Tow truck for what?
to drag us out of the situation, but you fixed it.
Oh,
I don't know
yes,
how, I have no idea how this works. I just do what I'm told. And it wasn't my fault today.
No. We do owe a donation to the glitch bitch jar.
How much is in there so far?
I think just there's been one other time. So
Stupid glitches.
Your language before we started recording deserves a donation. And whenever we do stuff up, we're going to put money in the glitch bitch jar and we're going to donate the money at the end of the year to wounded heroes. So
yes,
that's what we're going to do. Hey, listen, coming up, I'm going to talk to the Deputy Leader of the National Party, Kevin Hogan. He is the federal member for Page, and he's an interesting character. David Littleproud couldn't be with us this time, but he's ordered up off the bench his 2IC, and we're going to talk about some pressing issues, including the future of freedom of speech in the United States, that famous First Amendment, and the silencing of Jimmy Kimmel. Will it come back and backfire on Donald Trump? Or did Kimmel kind of get a bit of karma when he was over-celebrating the fact that Trump was also banned in a form from a social media platform? He thought it was the greatest thing in the world. Well, now Jimmy Kimmel has been silenced, and all of his contemporaries, including David Letterman and the rest of them, have jumped to his defense. And I can understand that because it's what they're about as well. And if you want to know why, we'll discuss it a bit later. There's a line, Kelsey, in All the President's Men, and that great movie that starred Dustin Hoffman and Robert Redford, who passed away recently, when he talks to Deep Throat in the car park. He says, "Can you give us some help?" He says, "Just follow the money."
Just follow the money.
You want to know why NBC and Disney have sacked, well, they've put him on the back burner, Jimmy Kimmel? Follow the money. Where do they get their funding from? The FCC. Anyway, it's an interesting story, and I think it will really backfire on Trump. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Charlie Kirk's funeral and the Optus stuff up. What do you make of this? Twice in 2 years, and lives have been lost. 4 lives were lost when Optus customers couldn't ring 000. They couldn't ring emergency services. And you remember what happened in 2023, Kelsey, with the fires. And back then, their CEO had to fall on her sword. They didn't let people know what was going on. 2023, Trevor Long rang me live on the air at 5 a.m. and said there's a massive Optus problem. He was breaking the news more than 24 hours after Optus even spoke to the public. I'll never forget it. Well, they've done it again 2 years later, and Rue is the CEO's name. Oh, he'll rue the day. Optus has behaved very, very badly again, and by the time this podcast actually reaches people, he'll probably be gone.
Who is responsible for this? Because, like, if people have died due to negligence, then surely somebody can be held responsible.
Well, someone has to be held. Someone does have to be held accountable, Kelsey, 100%. They're going to find out who that is. Now, were they hacked? Was it negligence? Was it incompetency? Well, there needs to be an inquiry and we need to find out why. But the fact that Optus has no PR skills and they treat people, their customers, like idiots. 4 people are dead.
I would be interested to know, because I feel like after the first stuff up, people were angry, but, you know, they kind of gave Optus the benefit of the doubt. But I wonder if this second stuff up, if you are an Optus user and you are now changing providers because of this stuff up, I wonder, I'd be interested to hear if anyone listening to this is now changing their provider.
Yeah, I'm sure they have. And they did 2 years ago, Kelsey. But a lot of them came back thinking, okay, well, I was happy with Optus besides all that, and they were competitive, and a lot of them came back. People forget.
Are you with Optus?
No, I'm with, I don't want to say.
Why not?
Oh, is it okay? I'm with Voda, but I'm with whoever your mum tells me to be with.
Yeah.
I have no say in it.
Yep.
I'm compliant. Oh, look, if you don't, there's an old saying, Kelsey, when you get married, well, you've been in a relationship for a committed relationship for a long time now, but you got to choose your battles if you want to win a war. And the battle over my phone provider is not a battle I need to win.
Yeah, well, you should get a new phone though.
Oh, I bought my. This is something that I've spoken to Trevor Long about. So, unfortunately, something terribly embarrassing happened to my Apple phone in the pool in Bali. Remember?
You just dropped it in, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, I fell over going from one side to the other. It had nothing to do with 20 bintangs. And what happened was I had my phone in my hand and I fell over, and my first reaction was to put it above my head. Unfortunately, above my head was sideways.
Ah, yeah, idiot.
And it was a saltwater pool. The screen went like black.
Yep.
So my beautiful son, who's so generous, said, I've got a Galaxy phone you can have. I said, fantastic. He said, it's really good too. I said, oh, okay, I've never had an Android, but okay. And he said, only $400, Dad. Anyway, so I've got this Galaxy thing and I hate it. But your mum has exactly the same phone.
It takes the worst photos. That's why I hate it.
What's wrong with it?
I don't know. It just takes really bad photos. I don't like it.
Really, really bad photos. I took some photos of your mum. She played at the Manly Jazz Festival on the weekend with her band, Village Jazz. Gee, they're good. And I sent you some photos and some audio. Are people going to be able to see that or watch that at some point?
It will be on the Facebook page.
Now, those photos, they were right, weren't they?
I honestly haven't looked at them yet.
Right. You said to me, make sure you send me stuff from the Jazz Festival. I did it straight away.
Yeah, I'm getting around to it. It's still on the list.
That was days ago.
Oh, whatever.
Anyway, I'm very proud of your mum. She is a very, very good musician, plays trumpet, cornet, flugelhorn. She's played with James Morrison. She's been to the Monterey Jazz Festival, and she plays with a bunch of oldies and some newies. It's a collective group, 20-piece swing big band, and they're very, very good. They're called Village Jazz. And if you're in the Sydney area, they play from time to time. They play for charity.
Yeah. Mum has gone full retirement lady. She also is now playing bowls, which I think is so funny because who just takes up bowls? Is it just like you get to a certain age and then like you have an urge to play bowls?
No, there are plenty of people who play lawn bowls who are your age and even younger now.
Oh, bull.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
It used to be a game for retirees, but now lots of people are getting into it, especially now that bowling clubs, their membership was dwindling because their members were dying, right?
Yeah.
So they introduced barefoot bowls and drinkies and music and people are flocking to it. It's a lot of fun. Men can play women because it's not a game of strength. It's tactics and getting the curl of the ball to get closest to the jack, and it's actually a lot of fun. It's kind of like, Kelsey, billiards, but on a bloody big table. And I actually enjoy it. It's good.
Maybe that's what we should do for our Christmas party, is go play barefoot bowls.
We should do it.
Yeah, lock it in, Eddie.
Do you know what? A lot of bucks parties involve lawn bowls now. Golf is still,
I know
golf
that.
is still, so what age are they? So it's not, see,
Yeah, but
people
that's just for a one-off. It's not like actually going down and playing in competitions and stuff. That's reserved for anyone over the age of 50.
Lots of people go 10-pin bowling and aren't league players. Lots of people play golf and they don't belong to a golf club. It is a lot of fun. Okay. But you're right. You're right. She is in full retirement.
She's in full retirement mode.
I don't like it. I liked it when she disappeared for a day, was up a ladder cleaning windows.
Can someone please suggest a cooler retirement hobby, please?
Okay, what do you do? Are you retired? What do you do?
Yeah.
Let us know, yeah. What is your hobby? Have you taken up something that you've never done before and are loving it? What is it? Also, coming up, James Ward, content director for drive.com.au. He got into a Tesla in Sydney, and the purpose of the experiment was to drive all the way to Melbourne without touching anything. He put his destination in the GPS or whatever it is and said, go. And he's documented it. It's a fascinating story. Can you get from Sydney to Melbourne in an electric car, a Tesla autonomous car, and just keep your feet off the pedals and your hands off the steering wheel and get there safely? It's an interesting story. That's coming up with James Ward and, of course, Rod Hannafy and Truckee Tuesday. All that and a lot more here on Bonafide, episode 55.
News updates.
Hey, what about this? The New South Wales government has just fallen short of completely banning e-bikes on trains. Now, pedal bikes fitted with electric motors will be banned from trains in New South Wales. And you want to know why? They catch on fire and they're dangerous. These things are allowed in your homes. I really worry about this technology, but ordinary e-bikes, shared e-bikes, mobility devices are going to be spared from the ban. It'll come into effect in New South Wales November 1. The ban will see anyone caught riding a converted e-bike on Sydney. Who rides a bike on a train?
But also, who is just fitting an ordinary bike with an electric motor? How much time do people have on their hands?
Listen, the people will do anything if they can make it faster and if it involves less effort. But if you get caught putting your e-bike, this is a converted e-bike on a Sydney train, you could get fined up to $1,100 and 10 penalty units. Crikey. Look, the government was previously considering a ban on all e-bikes on New South Wales trains. Do you think they've gone too far, or do you think they should be banned?
Well, I think if they're safe, then why not? It is a good way to get around the city. Like, the easier people can get around the city without having to take their car in, the better, because parking is atrocious, traffic is terrible. So, I mean, I can see the benefit of e-bikes, but they have to be safe.
Yeah, well, I mean, of course they've got to be safe, but some of them aren't. And they're catching fire in people's apartments. They're catching fire on the bottom floor where they're in storage in high-rise apartments. And it's only a few of them that do it, but obviously the technology hasn't been perfected yet. It is a worry. Anyway, let us know what you think. The Charlie Kirk funeral.
My husband, Charlie, he wanted to save young men, just like the one who took his life. That young man, on the cross, our Savior said, "Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do." That man, that young man, I forgive him.
Wow, what a huge event. It's been compared to the Super Bowl in its size. You got thousands of people who stayed outside the Phoenix State Farm Stadium. They stayed overnight and they were singing and praying, and they waited for the doors to open 7 a.m. this morning, our time. I think that the Charlie Kirk assassination is only going to strengthen his narrative. And I just feel so bad for his family. And his wife has said his message is not going to go away. It will only reignite it. His death has been compared to that of Martin Luther King. Would you go that far?
No way. But also, I wonder who's paying for this memorial. One of the big problems in America right now is the division between, Democrats and Republicans. And in the same week that Charlie Kirk was shot, so was a Democratic politician. And that wasn't mentioned at all. But then again, everyone has the right to grieve, and everyone has the right to memorialize someone. So I don't know, it's just a very interesting time right now that we're even having this conversation.
But you look at, we mentioned this earlier, you look at the silencing of Jimmy Kimmel, and what he said was he believed that, well, let's have a listen. Let's just have a listen. This is exactly what Jimmy Kimmel had to say, and this is why he was taken off the air.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them, and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
So it seems fairly innocuous. He's saying that the Republicans are using it as a weapon. That's his opinion. Did he deserve to be taken off the air? We're going to talk about it a bit later.
No, it's very much a control tactic. And just imagine if we didn't have the right to criticize Albo, or if we didn't have the right to criticize Susan Lee,
Exactly.
That would be... Australians would not stand for it. Absolutely not. But it has to be fair all the way around. Otherwise, it becomes a dictatorship. Nobody signed up for that.
Well, we're going to talk about it with Kevin Hogan a little bit later in the podcast, Deputy Leader of the Nationals. But we do have, is there freedom of speech? I mean, here in Australia, if you broadcast something that's defamatory or liable, you can be sued. Okay. If you incite violence, if you incite racial hatred, okay, that is against the ACMA rules. You have to be fair and balanced if you broadcast on the ABC, and they're often not. So,
according to you.
Absolutely, according to me, I'll stand by it. But anyway, so we'll talk more about that. But just remember, freedom of speech is the US First Amendment, and it's being highly challenged at the moment, I think.
Yeah, well, freedom of speech does not mean freedom of consequences.
Correct. But what about the conspiracy theory surrounding Tyler Robinson, who has been identified as the accused shooter?
Yes. Well, let me tell you about this, Luke, because I have fallen down the rabbit hole here, and I never in my life thought that I would sit down and watch an hour-long Candace Owens YouTube video.
First of all, talk about Candace Owens. I've watched it as well. Tell the folks about Candace Owens.
Well, Candace Owens is a far right-wing political commentator in America. She was actually banned from coming to Australia a little while ago. And she has been very divisive, but usually she kind of falls in line with the Republican rhetoric, right? But in recent times, she's actually kind of left the pack a little bit. She has also been known to be quite close with Charlie Kirk as well. And she was very distraught about his shooting when it happened. I have never really liked Candace Owens. I do think she's a bit batshit. In saying that, I will always listen to what somebody has to say. She released a video, I think it was last week, an hour-long video essentially talking about a conspiracy theory. She's trying to, I guess, implicate Israel in Charlie Kirk's shooting. Now, I'm not going to give any kind of light to that because it is baseless at this point, but she did, some of the holes that she's poked in the official narrative of the investigation did kind of get me putting my tinfoil hat on.
Actually, just pause for a second. Let's have a little listen to just 60 seconds of what she's had to say.
If the government does want to hide something, what they do is they give you so much information that you can't you don't even know what's real. So many different possible ways that things could have gone down, so many different manners, so many people speaking, so many publications publishing. And it's just meant to be chaotic, to drive you crazy and to just go, okay, I'm just going to accept whenever the authority says something and not prod any further. Here is what we know thus far. The first bit of proof regarding that day happened at 8:07 a.m. According to TMZ, they have footage, and we're going to show you it, which shows a man at 8:07 a.m., so hours before the shooting, wearing a maroon t-shirt and light shorts, as you were seeing on your screen right now, hands in his pockets, that is just walking outside of university grounds, okay? Now, Governor Carks tells us that at 8:29, which is an interesting timeline, Governor Carks tells us that that is when the shooter, Tyler Robinson, arrived at UVU campus in a plain maroon t-shirt, light-colored shorts, and a black hat with a white logo. So essentially, he's saying that what that person we saw walking down the street right there arrived on campus at 8:29. So what's interesting, already confusing to me, is that TMZ shows him already walking. We're supposed to believe he walked, parked his car, and then walked onto campus. They're saying that after that video that you just saw of him walking, he got into his car and then drove to campus. And then at 8:29 p.m. on campus is when he arrives. Already confusing, but let's just keep going. Then we're back to TMZ, and they release that at 11:49 a.m., they have footage of the shooter who has now changed his outfit. We're supposed to gather that, again, on a doorbell cam, and he's in a different outfit. So this is 11:49 a.m. Charlie Kirk has not yet been shot. You are going to see someone who appears to be limping.
So what did you make of that?
So let's just kind of break it down. And I'm just paraphrasing here. I would really recommend, if you want to know more about this, go watch her video. But also, please just watch her video with a grain of salt.
With a grain of salt, yeah.
Absolutely, because a lot of these things can easily be kind of unraveled with new information. It is very common for the police and FBI to only release selective amounts of information to kind of avoid situations like this.
Well, what's the story about the decoy shooter?
Well, we don't actually know. So this is another weird thing. George Zinn, so once the shot was fired, George Zinn was just kind of saying, I'm the shooter, I'm the shooter. He was kind of like a decoy. Yeah. He was then taken into custody, and that kind of, I guess, people kind of took the foot off the pedal and were like, oh, we've got the guy. But then it was come out again that, oh, no, he's not the guy. And then people are, searching for the new shooter. So it's all just a bit weird. We're also told that Tyler Robinson has disassembled the gun on the rooftop and then he's run away. But all the footage that we have, and I'm sure everyone listening to this has seen this footage, you can see that the shot is fired and then almost immediately the shooter gets up and runs across the rooftop. Mm-hmm. And it is not a gun that is easily disassembled. It's not like a click, click, boom, put it in the backpack, run away. It actually requires a screwdriver. So the idea that he disassembled the gun and then, ran away with it and hid it somewhere, it's not really making sense. But what I find interesting is that, and this hasn't been verified, just keep this in mind, Candace Owens released a photo of Tyler Robinson in a Dairy Queen that same night at
wearing the maroon t-shirt and the shorts again.
And he's wearing the maroon t-shirt. So we're led to believe that he started the day wearing the maroon t-shirt. Just before the shooting, he got changed into jeans and a black t-shirt. And then later on in that same day, he put on the same outfit he started the day with to go to Dairy Queen. And he wasn't hiding his face in Dairy Queen or anything. So it's all just a bit weird.
Tinfoil hat on, Kelsey.
I know. I can't believe I'm wearing the tinfoil hat, but I would be... I'm not saying that I believe this because I know that a lot of this hasn't been verified yet. The photo hasn't been verified, and I know for a fact that police and FBI do not release all the information at one time. They're very particular about what they release and when. Yeah. I am wearing the tinfoil hat, but I am curious to know what the audience thinks.
Yeah. All right. Well, let us know. Luke Boner, radioguy@gmail.com. Yes, you can Google Candace Owens if you want.
I'll put the link in the description of this episode.
All right. Okay. Dear, oh dear.
I wonder, let me know, are you wearing the tinfoil hat with me, or do you have information that can help me take the tinfoil hat off?
Let's hear what you guys have had to say. Kelsey, we've got a message from Dean. Just wanted to let you know my thoughts about making roads safer. In January 2023, our grandson was killed at the age of 9. Oh, dear, oh, dear. His mother's car was T-boned by a drunk driver at 11 a.m. in the morning who travelled through a stop sign and crashed straight into the back passenger door where our grandson was sitting. Since then, my wife and I have been trying to petition the government to change the laws for road crime and also the bail laws. What we believe would make people think twice before driving drunk and drug affected or speeding would have the charge of dangerous driving causing death equal to the sentence of manslaughter. I agree. You get behind the wheel of a car and you know you're under the influence of something and you have an accident, that's premeditated.
I thought it would be manslaughter.
It's not an excuse. It's premeditated. And it absolutely should be. Some people have actually said if you drive over the limit and kill someone, it should be premeditated murder. That's that on them.
Yeah.
Look, we do need tough laws to make people think twice. I wonder if we could get Dean's details. I would love to talk to him if he's up for it on the podcast somewhere down the track, Kels.
Yeah, absolutely. He did say that currently the average sentence for dangerous driving causing death is 2.5 years time served with parole where the maximum is 10 years. He said there should be no bail for these people or parole once sentenced. I think if these penalties were a lot harsher and people were told this applying for their license, it would make people think again before driving dangerously. I agree.
I agree too.
I agree.
Let's get Dean on if he's up for a chat because I'd like to talk to him about it. It's a terrible story. Now, Steve, Nathan's dad, sent us a video to watch. This is from Senator Malcolm Roberts. Let's have a look.
Well done, everyone. What an amazing job you've done. I'm delighted to announce that the Commonwealth of Australia has reached its net zero target under the United Nations Paris Climate Agreement. 30 years early. Well done, everyone. Senator Babette, well done. I thank Senator Assistant Minister McAllister for the definition she used in this Senate chamber during the climate change bill. From Article 4 of the UN Paris Climate Agreement, quote, net zero is a balance between human production of emissions and removal of those emissions by environmental sinks, end of quote. Our country has so many forests that Australia already sinks 3 times more carbon dioxide than we produce. Worldwide, forests and oceans sink 3/4 of human production. Under the government's own definition, Australia is already at net zero and the rest of the world is not far behind. But the Paris Agreement definition of net zero ends with these words, quote, in the context of sustainable development and efforts to eradicate poverty. The UN Paris Agreement allows development, and that's great news for our Project Iron Boomerang. Yet notice the last part, eradicating poverty. If the Albanese government takes measures under its Climate Change Act that increases poverty in Australia, it will be in breach of the UN Paris Climate Agreement that the Liberal Nationals signed. Yet high energy prices from insane energy policies are increasing inflation, destroying wealth, destroying jobs and opportunity, and forcing people into poverty. Our human carbon dioxide production is not breaching the UN's Paris Agreement. Instead, the destruction of baseload power in this country and worldwide is breaching that agreement. And it does not require that action. The Albanese government cannot pick and choose which elements of the UN Paris Agreement it uses. One nation will hold this government to the letter of the UN agreement Australia signed, and that is simple. Climate zealotry and deceit must not push one person into poverty. Not one person. Not one. None.
What do you think?
Yeah, Senator Malcolm Roberts, I'd like to get him on the podcast as well. I mean, how many people actually understand what the Paris Agreement is? I mean, the United States said goodbye to it some time ago now, and a lot of European countries are also saying, well, net zero is fanciful, and a lot of countries are saying, well, we're already well on the way. If we are to completely abandon coal-based power and demonise coal before renewables are ready to take that base load on, we're all in trouble. We will this summer not have air conditioning, we will not have lights, and we've already seen parts of Australia, particularly South Australia and vast areas of Victoria and Western Australia, have blackouts because they already can't cope with the base load. So what is net zero? And what Malcolm Roberts was saying there about poverty, that is also, he's quite correct, that is also at the end of the Paris Agreement. What does that mean? I would like to know exactly what the Conservatives' policy on net zero is, and could they please come up with a policy soon?
Yeah. Very interesting. I would like to talk about this with Dr. Kyle. I would love to know his thoughts and opinions on the matter.
We're going to get Dr. Carl back on very soon.
Yes, October.
Kelsey, you have something you wanted to contribute.
Yes. So somebody sent us a video of what looks like construction workers doing their morning stretches to Chapel
Right.
Rowan's song Pink Pony Club. Great song.
Never heard of it.
It's so good.
How's it go?
Pink Pony Club. I'm going to keep on dancing at the pink. It's really good. I'll send it to you.
No, don't.
I wanted to bring this up. It's not really something we can play here because there's not much going on. We'll post it on the Facebook page. But I've got to say, I never knew that sometimes it's mandatory for construction workers, blue-collar workers to do morning stretches. Nathan was telling me that, it's sometimes
Really?
companies, it's mandated.
They do this in Japan. In the factories in Japan, they all have to get out and do exercises every morning.
So one of the comments on the video said, "My dad said no one is stronger than HR forcing a whole construction crew to stretch in the morning." And another comment said, "Dying knowing this made yours insurance less expensive." So I wonder, how long has this been going on?
I had no idea.
Yeah, did you? Yeah, I was going to say, did you have any idea that that's
No,
like
I had
a
no
thing?
idea. I had no idea.
We have a construction site literally right outside our window. I don't think I've ever been up early enough to check, but I feel like tomorrow I'm gonna peep out the window and see if any of them are doing morning stretches.
Yeah, and what time do they do it? I want to go and video it.
Yeah, I wonder is it surely not? We would have heard it from Rod Hannafy, but what would truckies do if before they got in the truck they had to mandatorily do some morning stretches? Maybe would that benefit people?
Tell me, is it compulsory for you to do morning exercises before you start work? Where do you work? And what music do you listen to?
Yeah.
I'd love to know. This is fascinating stuff that we're unraveling here on the Bonafide podcast today.
So fascinating.
I didn't know.
There
I
you
didn't
go.
know.
Learn something new every day.
Coming up on episode 55 of Bonafide with Luke Boner and the bitch glitch.
Haha, glitch.
Oh, no, it's more money in the jar.
Stupid glitches.
Coming up on episode 55, Kevin Hogan, Deputy Leader of the Nationals. One of our regulars on the Bonafide podcast, as you all know, is the Leader of the Nationals, David Littleproud, but he's missing in action. But his deputy, Kevin Hogan, has decided to jump in and to use the Honourable Member for Page's words. We've raised the bar of the podcast. I hope this doesn't get... Kevin Hogan, welcome to Bonafide. I hope this doesn't get back to the boss.
No, it will. I said, well, look, if they're talking to me now, not you, we've lifted the bar, mate. So there we go.
There's a fair bit to talk about this morning, and I know time is precious, but I did want to talk to you about this second massive Optus stuff-up.
We were informed by two individuals that they could not connect into 000, and this information was not surfaced with the relevant escalation at that time.
The telco confirming a botched firewall upgrade knocked out 000 calls to South Australia, WA and the NT at 12:30am Thursday. But with regular calls still going through, Optus was in the dark.
Normal calls were connecting as they should, and call volumes at a national level did not raise any red flags.
It wasn't until 1:30pm, some 13 hours after the upgrade, a third customer call was finally acted upon. The telco stopping the upgrade, restoring 000 access and contacting police. By then, 600 people had called for help and couldn't get through. We now know an 8-week-old baby boy and a 68-year-old woman died in South Australia, while a 74-year-old man passed away in WA.
I can't believe it. And the papers today at the dropping of this podcast are saying that the Optus CEO, Stephen Rue, unfortunate name, cannot last in the job much longer. The thing that gets me is not only have people died, Kevin Hogan, but this is the second time Optus has had not just the technical stuff up, but has behaved really appallingly in the aftermath. But I want to know your thoughts. What do you make of this?
Yeah, well, look, both what you just said, Luke. I mean, firstly, of course, there's so many human tragedy stories behind this, including, as we all know, the death of a baby because of the breakdown in the system and other deaths as well. So, look, this is on a human level a tragedy and very sad. But look, as you've said, I mean, Optus behaviour post this has not been good at all. And there also are questions too, Luke, about, ACMA are notified. They're the federal regulatory body, and they are then supposed to notify the minister immediately as well. So we've got Optus's behaviour, which I don't think has been a good corporate citizen in this and good enough. But then we also have, well, what are the regulatory bodies been doing and when did they notify the minister? So there's some questions about timelines here. But at the end of the day, the worst thing about all this, of course, is a human tragedy.
So we've got 4 people dead. And as I said, it's the second time in 2 years this telecommunications provider has failed to deliver essential services to its paying customers. It confirmed last week that its failed network did an update on Thursday. It meant 000 calls, some were made but just went unanswered. And as I also said, they experienced a nationwide network outage November 8, I think it was, back in 2023, which also caused significant disruption right across Australia. And ACMA found, as you said, that Optus failed to provide access to the emergency call service. But here they are, waiting a hell of a long time to tell us what has actually happened. What do you think what's their corporate responsibility? Sorry, Kevin.
Well, mate, there's more obviously questions and answers that we got at the moment, and their behaviour, their responses to this aren't good enough. And Luke, I remind your listeners as well, the government give these providers money to provide these, obligatory services. I mean, 000, very important to our way of life and what we do in emergencies. So they are reimbursed for this and they get money for infrastructure around this and providing that service. So look, you've just asked a whole lot of questions of which there aren't answers for, and this is many days now after the event. That in its own is not good enough. We have questions too about timelines from Optus, the regulator, to the minister too that haven't been answered. And this doesn't change anything for the poor families that have lost loved ones with this, but they do need answers to these terrible questions.
Yeah, watch this space. Do you hold much hope for the CEO's job?
Well, look, there's been very many reports about it, but look, he has a lot of answers to give. He hasn't been giving them. And, as the reports say, he's on very shaky ground. Optus are a commercial company, but I certainly understand that. I mean, his behaviour, the responses haven't been good enough from a good corporate citizen.
Kevin Hogan is with us with our weekly chat about life here in Australia and world affairs. I want to turn overseas to the United States for a second. I'd love to know how you see all of this unfolding. First of all, the Prime Minister is in the United States to talk to President Trump. We finally got confirmation last week that the appointment was there because President Trump didn't like what an ABC reporter said to him before leaving for the UK. And he said, I'll be talking to your leader next week. And then we all went, oh, right, so the Prime Minister has got a face-to-face. How much time do you think he'll have with the president, and what do you think he's going to hope to achieve?
Well, look, let's hope he gets the meeting, Luke. This is he's one of over 30 leaders around the world have had a physical face-to-face meeting with the US president. Our Prime Minister hasn't. We have the question around tariffs. We need to push back on the US president about the tariff policy he has. I don't think that's good policy. I don't think it's good for the Americans. I don't think it's good for for us here that export. We have national security questions around AUKUS as well. Now, the fact that our Prime Minister has not made it a priority or hasn't been able to get this meeting is not okay. But anyway, let's hope he does get the meeting. But national security issues, economic relationships have to be high on the agenda.
How do you think the UK trip went? When Prince Charles at that huge banquet made his speech, he joked about golf, but he also said something that I pictured. I clearly could see that Trump was a little unnerved when he said that the UK and the world does not like oppression. And he was clearly referring to Ukraine and Russia. And Trump shifted in his seat and kind of looked down and looked sideways. Is there more Trump can do to bring peace to that part of the world?
Well, look, Europe, very complex. The Russia-Ukraine story, very complex. We have other complex situations in the Middle East. And look, I think Trump has done some good things there. I mean, he's trying to, he did some good things with the Houthis as well, where he did a lot of damage to their infrastructure. But look, these are complex situations. He wants peace, good on him. But look, he's a negotiator. He's a deal maker. One good thing that's happened in the UK, Luke, is that Trump has had a couple of meetings now, physical meetings with Keir Starmer, the UK Labor Prime Minister, by the way.
The government's trade agreement with the US will prevent Britain's steel industry facing even higher tariffs. US President Donald Trump exempted the UK from the 50% tariffs on steel and aluminium.
Steel and aluminium tariffs. For us, it's at 50%. For the UK, it's been lowered to 25% because the UK Prime Minister has developed some relationship with the US President. That's been a good thing, right? And ours hasn't. Our Prime Minister hasn't. And that's why this meeting, if and when he gets it this week or next week, is very important.
Yeah. If I've said this to David, and I've said it for a long time, I actually think that diplomatic roles shouldn't necessarily automatically go to politicians. I think diplomats should be whoever's the best person to get the job done. That's only my opinion. Yeah, look, I agree with you. And, obviously a lot of diplomats too are bureaucrats and, have come through the system, and that's important. But, I've raised the question before too. I mean, Rudd is our chief diplomat and the ambassador of Australia to the US. I mean, is he the ideal appointment? I think that's a question worth asking too, given things he said. But, anyway, we're dealing with what we've got. Let's get on to the assassination of Charlie Kirk. His funeral at the dropping of this podcast is on now, and J.D. Vance and the president are speaking at that funeral service.
He was assassinated because he lived bravely, he led boldly, and he argued brilliantly without apology. He did what was right for our nation. And so on that terrible day, September 10th, 2025, our greatest evangelist for American liberty became immortal. He's a martyr now for American freedom. I know I speak for everyone here today when I say that none of us will ever forget Charlie Kirk, and neither now will history.
It's a tragedy when anyone gets killed for saying what's on their mind. Whether you agree or disagree, you'd want to follow the great words of JFK. I may not agree with what you have to say, but I'll fight to the death for your right to say it. But let's talk about what I think is a really dangerous precedent now in the United States, and that is the First Amendment, freedom of speech, and what's happened to Jimmy Kimmel. It's fascinating as a broadcaster for me to watch this and to see financial pressure put on a broadcasting corporation by the Trump administration to try and gag this bloke. And I think it's going to backfire. When you look at what Jimmy Kimmel actually said, was it worth cancellation? What do you make of the whole thing?
Yeah, a lot of things here too, Luke. So can I first say too, Voltaire, JF Kennedy's quote, I disagree with everything you say, but we'll protect your right, goes back, I understand, to a French philosopher back a few hundred years ago.
Plagiarism.
Yeah, very important. But but what a great statement it is. And look, Charlie Kirk first. I have to say this. Charlie used to come up in my feed. I used to follow him a little bit. I'd see what he did on US campuses. I found him an exceptionally intelligent, exceptionally articulate, and thought-provoking guy, and that's what he was about. So obviously, we know that his shooting was a complete tragedy and not okay. I said straight away too, I hope the left-wing press don't some way validate this or excuse this because that will make it worse. And I think some have done that. However, now to come to your point, Luke, yes, look, we have laws in Australia about defamation and about not inciting violence. And I think that's all we should do about curbing free speech. You can't defame someone, say something that's not true without being sued, or you can't incite violence. Get that? I understand that. Other than that, I think broadcasters, I think opinion piece people should be able to say and do what they wish. And that includes people who obviously say things that you don't agree with. So I agree with your sentiment here about what's happened to Jimmy Kimmel. People should be able to do and say what they want. I mean, there are other excuses or ideas around his accent. He had falling ratings, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But yes, we're getting into very dangerous territory here. I agree with you.
Let's just have a quick listen to what he actually said.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
So the MAGA gang is desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. That's what he said. And of course, he's had he and a lot of other comedians who are probably bent towards the Democrats have had a great celebration in mocking President Donald Trump over the years. Just remember Jimmy Kimmel's reaction when Donald Trump was banned from social media. And Kimmel mocked him and devoted entire monologues to the idea that Trump was being silenced and maybe even banned from his own free speech app, Social Truth. And Kimmel laughed about Twitter being the arbiter of truth. And Kimmel actually ridiculed anyone concerned about censorship and dismissed the idea that silencing voices online was dangerous. And now his own platform's gone. And the tone's completely different. So Kimmel celebrated Trump being banned from a social media platform, didn't he?
I mean, the irony here, Luke, right? So you've got Jimmy Kimmel celebrating the fact that Trump was banned from a social media platform. Now, that was outrageous at the time. And, the left thought that was great and what a joke and how happy they were about that when Trump was banned from a social media platform. Now, obviously, as you say, Jimmy Kimmel has been, it looks like he's been shoved aside as well. So, look, my position on this, Luke, is unless it's defamation or incitement of, violence, everyone should be able to say what they will. Trump should never have been banned from social media when, after he was president on those platforms. But, I though share with you now your concerns about Jimmy Kimmel as well. You can't have it one way and not the other. So, freedom of speech are very important. And we saw, just to add to this too, Luke, you would remember last year, I think one of the most dangerous bills I saw our left-wing socialist Labor government here try and pass in the last parliament was the misinformation laws. I mean, the danger and what the imposition that would have had on free speech in Australia would have been horrific as well, by the way.
Yeah, it really does concern me, and I totally agree. Inciting violence or broadcasting defamation or defamatory or liable content is dangerous. Mind you, defamation and libel laws go out the window in Parliament, don't they?
Parliamentary privilege. And
yeah.
having said that, Luke, I think, this has got you to understand, this has huge tradition and history through the UK Westminster parliamentary system. And I think it's really important, because if we did see laws, if we did see, a government pass a law that we thought did encroach on freedom of speech, we would have the right in Parliament not to, to have that, right to break that. And that would be even more important to have the right of parliamentary privilege. And I think you'll find that most parliamentarians are very, it's very rare for a parliamentarian to say something in Parliament that they wouldn't say outside. They do, but I think a really important protection that we have, though.
I just wanted to talk to you as Deputy Leader of the Nationals quickly about Senator Jacinta Napajimba-Price from the Northern Territory, who is now a Liberal. I spoke to your leader, David Littleproud, about this, but I just want to know, what's the feeling in Conservative politics in Canberra now concerning Senator Price? Where do you think her future now lies? Do you think she needs to get to the House of Representatives?
Well, I think whatever Jacinta does, she has a very bright future. I mean, Jacinta sat in the Nats party room. I know her quite well. We all know the important part she played in the Voice referendum. Almost, she led that no campaign. I think that personally, I thought she did really well. I was obviously voting no in the Voice. I thought she was important with that debate. So, she's a big player. Obviously, personally, I was really disappointed when she left the Nationals and went to the Liberal Party. I understand the reasons behind that, but personally disappointed that she did it and the way she did it, by the way. But look, who knows? But, whether she changes to the House of Reps, stays in the Senate, she has a big future. Well, I hope she does.
What sort of future does Susan Lee have?
Well, I hope Susan Lee has a big future as well. We're a member of the coalition, Luke. I want to be in government. I think this Labor-Greens alliance government that we have is very left-wing. I think this parliamentary session for these next 3 years, they're going to be worse than they were in the first 3. We need to get our act together and be strong, so I wish her the best as well.
Why do you think the coalition lost its way so badly, particularly during that disastrous campaign? What went wrong?
Yeah, well, that's a very good question, Luke. And, it was interesting. I was talking to a Labor senator about 2 or 3 weeks later after that. And I said, did you see this? I didn't see it. So just to caveat this, as Nat, we did quite well. I was in my seat doing well. I was travelling to a lot of my colleagues around regional Australia, country Australia. We were doing quite solid. Even in Bendigo, we had a 9% swing with a seat we were trying to win. And I think there's a real city-country divide right now, which is interesting to observe that the country, the regional Australia is voting much more conservatively than the city. So that's interesting. So I don't have some insight that maybe some city people would. But, I think it was nothing, but it was everything. It was, there were about 4 or 5 things. The work from home's been mentioned. Other issues that sort of didn't fall our way. Obviously, about 20% of undecided voters, who are making their vote very late, all fell basically to the Labor or other left-wing minor parties. So a lot of work to do there. I still don't think there's lots of answers to that question. I don't think one.
I want to know from Susan Lee where she stands, and I'm asking you as a member of the coalition, where does the coalition stand now on net zero?
At the moment, it's our policy. So as a Nats, and as a coalition, we're going through a separate process. But as a Nats, we have Senator Mark Carnarvon and Senator Ross Goodell doing a review into this. We want to make an evidence-based decision. So we're doing, what are the costs to regional Australia especially? What are the costs to our big smelters? What are the costs to business? What are the costs to the power bill? And we're going to come back with a position that's going to be based very much on an independent review and study and numbers. We are making a commitment to do that as quickly as possible. We owe that, I think, to the voter to land there as quickly as we can. Look, I hope to, in very early in the new year at the latest, say this is where we're at and this is why we're there. Because one of the things that was highlighted last week, Luke, when the Prime Minister came out and Blackout Bowen announced their emission reductions targets last week, they couldn't tell you what that was going to do to everyone's electricity bill. And are they coming for ag next? Are we going for methane, beef cattle producers, and are we going into the transport sector to get these emission reduction targets? None of that detail was there, and it has to be if they're doing this.
So has the CSIRO got it wrong? Does the CSIRO now have to be called the CSI dunno?
Well, I don't know about that. But look, obviously, there's points around the CSIRO, though, and with all due respect to them, especially when they were comparing costs of the nuclear rollout compared to the renewables only rollout and the depreciation schedule. Like, for example, we thought they did the depreciation of nuclear far too quickly. The stations, the power stations last longer than 20 to 30 years. They can last longer than 50. That made a big difference too, as far as, the cost alternatives of these. Obviously when people are doing emission reductions or they're talking about climate change, no one's saying climate change is not real. Climate is changing. So the analysis done on that, there's lots of variables around that though. But, this is why we want to do the independent review.
Oh, we just want clear policy. We want clear policy. This is what the Conservatives actually stand for. Are they now in the middle? Are they going to go as far right as Paul? I'm telling you now, Pauline Hanson, since the last election, and because a lot of Conservative voters feel disenfranchised now, and there's time, there's a lot of ground to make up, I think Pauline Hanson is gaining a lot of Conservative support because she's clear cut. I mean, she's out there. I enjoy talking to her. But she's out there and she has a clear point of view. A point of difference is what I think Conservative voters are looking for.
Luke, you're right. And I would make the point that we do need to be very clear on a whole array of policies, including emission reductions targets, climate change, net zero. We need to be very clear about what our positions are on those and why. With all due respect, it's going to be 2.5 years to the next election. We have made a commitment with net zero that we are doing a review, and we're going to come back very early next year at the latest and say this is where we are at with that. And then we'll have a whole lot of other policies as well. Policies like childcare, policies like healthcare that are important, cost of living, how we're going to be dealing with those issues as well. All important as well. But you're right, we need to be really black and white and very clear with the Australian public of where we stand on all of those things.
Kevin Hogan, Deputy Leader of the Nationals. Last question, completely without notice. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. You could invite 4 people from anywhere in the world from any time in history to your place for a dinner party. Who do you invite?
Well, the first one for me is really easy. I'd invite Jesus. I think he was an interesting guy.
So long as he could speak the language.
Yes. Well, I'm hoping they all can.
No, if you can walk on water. Hey, listen, you wouldn't have to bring bread or wine. So
yeah, look, I think he'd be able to change language as well.
Without a doubt. So, geez, I'm with you. I'm with you. I'd love. Yeah,
I think he could do that. I haven't thought about this one for a while in history. Look, I'd invite some of the really bad guys just to know what they were thinking.
Hitler?
So, I don't know if I could sit in the room. But maybe even some of the more ancient history guys like Caesar or, Mark, back to the Roman times, one of those. But you want to spread the history too. Maybe go back to Egypt. Be nice to know what was going on with them. The Romans, Jesus, one more. We need a woman, Marie Antoinette.
Oh, very interesting. I hadn't thought, she wasn't on my list, but she should be. I thought you were going to say Mark Twain or Samuel Clement. I'd love to meet Mark Twain.
Yeah, he was a very witty guy. Some great lines. Yeah, very funny. He'd be very funny to have dinner with.
Or Noel Coward.
We'll throw him as
Noel
well.
Coward.
Noel Coward. Yeah, Noel Coward. Like, yeah, you need a bit of humour there. Yeah, maybe I've gone a bit with some of the. Well, maybe I don't know if the Egyptians were very.
I'm running out of people. Winston Churchill.
Yes.
Winston Churchill. I tell you who I'd love to talk to, Ben Chifley.
Oh yeah, actually, if we'd pick with it, there's an Australian Prime Minister too that was his name escapes me. What was he was Victorian, got the Deakin, Alfred Deakin.
Alfred Deakin.
Yeah, fascinating Prime Minister of Australia. Really early on, Federation. So he was around pre-Federation. Was a Prime Minister like around 1910. In the early times, Deakin University, all those things. He's Victorian, are named after him. Fascinating guy.
Yeah. If you go back in history, back to Federation 1901, he was actually the chief architect of the Immigration Restriction Act, known as the White Australia Policy. Did you know that?
Deakin, yeah. Well, he had a few. There were a few of them, though. I mean, obviously, White Australia Policy was pretty popular back then, but he was very good. Actually, there was some Henry Parkes, interesting guy. I don't know if you know this stat, but Henry Parkes, the New South Wales guy who was very important to Federation, had 3 wives. And his third wife, he married the 30-year-old nanny when he was in his 80s.
Oh, you have to invite him. In fact, it's a question.
That's interesting.
It's a question we can put to our listeners. Luke Boner, radio guy at Gmail. If you can invite 6 people from anywhere in the world, from any time in history, who would you like to have at your dinner party and why? And we'll come up with a prize for the best answer. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you, Kevin Hogan. Thank you so much for your time. What's on your agenda? What's on Australia's agenda for the next 7 days? What do you want us to keep our eye on?
Well, I'm off to Griffith today, so interesting part of the world down there. So, up one of our great regional communities. So I'm down there there this week. But Luke, every week, I'm just talking to small businesses and families, around the country, and times are tough, and we've got to maintain the main focus for us. I think every day, every week is cost of living, making sure that businesses aren't shutting down and that people can afford their power bills and their grocery bills. And I think that's what we should be talking about every week.
And can you please talk to the party room about giving us some sort of idea of where the coalition stands on net zero? I really want to know. Thank you so much for your time, Kevin Hogan. I'll report back to David Littleproud next week. Out of 5 stars, how many stars do you rate yourself?
I rate myself. I don't know the total number, but I rate myself better than David Littleproud. There you go.
You realise this is going to be replayed. Good luck.
And I say that with humour.
We may leave that bit out. Kevin Hogan, thank you for giving us some time here on the Bonafide podcast.
Thanks, Luke.
Coming up, James Ward, Content Director for drive.com.au. Time for motoring with our guru, James Ward, Content Director with drive.com.au. And if you see the pictures on our socials, he's actually sitting in a car. I mean, this is your studio. This is literally your studio. What vehicle are you in?
So I could say I'm a man of the people and I'm in a RAV4 or something fun like that, but I'm actually in the new Porsche 911 992.2 GTS 4 Targa hybrid. So this is the first time Porsche have done a hybrid in a 911, and you might sort of go, oh, shock horror. Oh my God, is this thing quick? The thing that it doesn't have, though, is that raw noise that Porsche used to have before they went turbocharged. And so, mind you, if you're spending Porsche money, you have a lot of choice. And this is the same price as like a GT3. So depending on what you like, the Targa, and what we'll do a bit later on, this has got the whole roof section that lifts up. So while I'm sitting here, I'll open the roof so you can see it behind me. But it is, mate, it's a beautiful motor car. This is one of the perks of the job, like quite often we are in a lot of new branded small SUVs, and that's fine. I've driven some interesting stuff this week, actually. Actually, here we go. So what have I driven? I've driven the new Geely EX5. So Geely is big Chinese conglomerate. They're like a Chinese Volkswagen. They own a bunch of different brands. Geely. EX5 is a big, small SUV, fully electric. It starts at like $42,000. So it is cheap. And I'm really impressed. Like it drives nicely. The tech's good. It's good. Great value. So a lot of box ticking. I drove the new MG ES5 EV, which again is a small, fully electric SUV. Again, starts in the 40s. A really nice little car. So you've got a lot of choice there. I've also driven the new IM6. Now, this is MG's premium brand, and they've got the IM5 and the IM6. One's a sedan, one's an SUV, to take on the Tesla 3 and Y. And it is, I think it's a bit under 80 grand, this one. It's got four-wheel drive, four-wheel steering. It's got some pretty crazy tech. It has 553 kilowatts. It's bonkers fast, but it's
That's
not
mad.
Mate, this is not a car. It's basically strapping a rocket motor to the Titanic.
I will never let go, Jack.
Like, it's a big car. It's a big plushy SUV. It's not a car you want to go that fast in, I assure you. So it's got some interesting things about it as well. So
how many kilowatts?
550. It's like 750 horsepower. It's nuts.
I was just about to type in the how much horsepower?
750.
Damn, that was fast.
And it was this blue SUV with plush white seat. You think these things do not go. This Porsche doesn't have that much power, right? Like, and I'm in a 911, which can handle that. So it's been quite interesting. I've been obviously talking a lot about the Tesla full self-driving supervised, because that is now in market. So if you own a Tesla, a new one, like a new Y or a new 3, and you bought the self-driving software when you bought the car, it has now been switched on. So you have the ability to supervise your car driving by itself. It's pretty bananas.
Okay, so last time we spoke, you were about to embark on this adventure, Sydney to Melbourne in this Tesla, and you were going to sit there and not touch anything, hopefully. How did it go? I want a review. Did the car get you from Sydney to Melbourne to your destination without a hiccup?
Yeah, it did. It was really good. Like, it made some navigation errors. And to be fair, I get lost on Sydney's freeways. So, like, Sydney's freeways are a disaster. But it was in the wrong lane. It was in the left lane. It was supposed to be in the right lane. It did that a couple of times, and it did some weird things about turning left, and it went straight ahead. But it drove basically by itself all the way, and it was safe. It didn't do anything jerkily. It didn't do anything aggressively. It was very conservative, very kind of polite, I suppose would be the right way to describe it, but it's quite remarkable, the technology. The thing is, though, it was sitting about 10% under the speed limit. It was doing things, and I've had all the Tesla fanboys. I can't deal with all of you out there. If you are a super fan, Tesla fan, who knows all the tricks and knows what version of software you're on and sits and jumps on bloody Twitter and tells everybody about it, we are not going to be friends.
You're not welcome here.
But what was funny is they've all jumped on and said, you can tell the car to speed up, or you can tell the car to change lanes. And my point to them is, that's actually driving your car, right? If you want to do that, then drive your bloody car. I'm letting the full self-driving supervised software make the decisions for me. And
that was the point of the exercise.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like, let's see what it does. But look, I am not a Tesla fan. I have not been.
Why?
Mate, I think the owners have kind of undone the brand for me. I respect what the product offers. I respect the technology. That Model 3 at, I think it's about 55 grand at the moment. And let's say you go and get it with the full self-driving upgrade. So $65,000 for that car, roughly. That's a lot of car, right? That is a lot of car. And if you buy one on a novated lease, you're paying less for that than you're paying for a Corolla. That is the techno bargain of the century. Like, it is a nice car. I don't like that you have to relearn everything. I don't like that they're very specific. There's a lot of little things, but they are technologically hugely impressive. And Yeah, it did it all. It navigated. It did all the things. It puts its indicator on. And it's funny, I've got a video, and in Sydney, I'm coming to a stop and a car runs the red light. And then when I got to Melbourne, same thing. I'm coming to a stop, car ran the red light. So who's the safer driver here? The car that's monitoring everything and did the stopped at the orange because it was driving a little more conservatively, or the Mazda CX-3 that blew through a very, very red light? It doesn't speed. But by the same token, and this is to be fair, it was a nice-ish day, and I drove down the Hume. And so I don't know what it does in rain and fog and poor weather. I drove at night and it was fine. And the Hume is a tier 1 road. You've got clear line markings. You've got all the little bits and pieces in the right places. The Hume's okay. So what would it do on a worse quality road and things like that? We don't actually know. And that's the thing. So there's a fair bit of testing to really go, but you can have it now. Like, it's testing in market. So if you own a Tesla or you buy a Tesla, you can buy it with it, or shortly you'll be able to get it on subscription for like $150 a month or something like that. It's pretty wild. But you have to concentrate. You have to be there. You have to be concentrating. Otherwise it turns off.
Did you ever feel the need to put your foot on the brake or to put an indicator on? Or
there was once when, so there was one point, it was weird. So a truck overtook me, then came in front, and the car's like, oh, I'm going to overtake that truck, even though the truck had just merged left. So the car moved into the right lane, and the truck was accelerating away, and it just sat in the right lane. I'm like, yeah, it sat there for a little bit too long, and I told it to move back into the left. You just tap the indicator and it moves. But it never made me feel scared, nervous, worried. It didn't do anything risky. It just did things perhaps a bit later than I would have. It did things like when merging lanes, you know your exit is coming up, you generally move across. The car just sort of waited, and I'm like, are we moving or what's happening? And it does it, but it does it quite late in that decision-making process. And even overtaking trucks, it would sit behind one for 15 minutes. If that truck was doing 105, it'd sit behind it and wait for the truck to slow under 100 before overtaking. So very conservative in the way that it drives. But yeah, I'm genuinely impressed.
what did you mean when you said you've really got to concentrate, otherwise it turns itself off? What does that mean?
So in the rear view mirror, or just above the rear view mirror, there's a camera that's looking at you, looking at the road.
Yeah.
And so with my sunglasses on, it couldn't see my eyes, and it kept saying, hey, no, you're not concentrating. You need to remind me that you're here. So without glasses on, it's looking. So if you're looking around the car, or if you're on your phone, if you're trying to game the system and read a book or do something stupid, it will turn off. So the laws in Australia, we do not allow what is known as a level 3 or above car. So a level 3 autonomous car is one that is, you need a driver there, but the car is making all the decisions. Now, arguably, that's what the Tesla is doing. It is, in markets, this full self-driving software is a level 3 autonomy, but Australia does not allow that. And so the reason that it is allowed, it's basically on a level 2 ticket, because you as the driver have to be 100% supervising. So the same way that when you put cruise control with distance, or you put lane keeping in a Hyundai or something, you have to be in control of the car. So this is the same. So what the big thing here is, for anyone who's going, oh, wacko, I can make some cool TikToks and show my friends with the car driving itself and we can screw around. You can't. You have to, and you are fully responsible. So if anyone is driving one, remember in Melbourne a few years ago, there was a woman who said, and a lady got hit getting on a tram, and a lady was driving a Tesla and went past the tram and it hit the lady. And she said at the time, I was using autopilot. It's the car's fault. And it turns out she wasn't. She was just not concentrating because she's a moron. The thing is, you can't blame the technology in this instance. If something goes wrong and you're hurt, or something's damaged, or someone else is hurt, and you go, oh, but it was the car, not going to wash. It is the same as if you were driving. So for anyone listening and wanting to do this and thinking, cool, we can have some fun, you are in Barney Rubble if things go wrong. So the idea that you can use the car to drive you home from the pub, that you can have a sleep, that I had one guy go, oh, what's stopping kids using it? It's this technology. I'm like, mate, kids are stealing bloody Corollas left, right and center. I don't think we need to be worrying about, specific demographics for the Tesla software.
If you don't want kids to steal your car, own a manual.
Yeah, that's it. Get a manual car. But yeah, the lockout kind of rule set of that camera looking at you, is actually really strict. So it's quite good that way. It's quite measured. I even hear myself saying all these complimentary things about Tesla. And I was like, oh, who have I become?
I've become a monster.
But it is genuinely impressive. They have done it is, one word, it is remarkable. It really is.
I have to go wash my mouth out with soap.
Okay, now it's navigating itself using its technology, but is it reading constantly a satellite?
Yeah.
Is it getting information? So what happens if you go through a tunnel?
Well, that was the problem.
Because I know with my Waze, I go through the Sydney tunnel.
Yeah, and it loses connection.
It loses connection. It knows where I'm still going, but the little speedo on the bottom right-hand corner stops.
Yes.
What if you're driving somewhere and the GPS, the satellite disappears?
Well, so it's using the GPS for navigation, but it's using cameras and sensors for driving. And that's the thing. So the navigation is separate. In a modern car, if you set the navigation and it loses satellite signal, it kind of remembers what it was trying to do and tries to guide you anyway. But the car doesn't need the GPS to drive, it needs it to navigate. So let's say it forgets its signal, and this only works. So you only get to use it with a destination. You can't just go, let's go for a random drive, Herbie.
No, Herbie, don't!
You know, you actually put in a destination and say, let's go there. So you are basically navigating the entire time in the car. Yeah, man, it's pretty nuts.
It is, isn't it? But I'm glad to hear that the law is it's the driver's responsibility
Yeah, it's
at the end of the day.
100% the driver's responsibility. And I think that's what's key here to making this, not only making it legal for Tesla, because a lot of people said, hang on, surely this is a loophole, that it is a level 3 system that is trying to pretend it's level 2. But the caveats that they've put in and that limitation on the driver, that you have to be 100% plugged in, that is the rule set, and that's what makes it work.
Yep. James Ward is with us, drive.com.au. This test drive from Sydney to Melbourne in the Tesla, when can we watch it?
So it's live now on drive.com.au. We've got a video. I've got a story that I'm trying to set up as well that basically answers every question that everybody asked. So hopefully I can have that live by the time this goes live. So we'll have some stuff on drive.com.au with everything. On our YouTube channel, there is a video you can watch. I am impressed. I'm genuinely impressed. And it hasn't done it. So once again, I've missed my exit. It's now not going down the tunnel. That's where we needed to go. Meanwhile, that car has just gone straight through a red light. So, you know, the self-driving car saw the red light and has stopped. And so you can see now that a tipper and dog is going past us because the car is sitting at 103 rather than 110, which is the speed limit. So, again, would we have done that if we were driving? Probably not. We would have pulled ahead of a vehicle like that. But if I was a nervous driver, I wouldn't be too happy about being overtaken by a large truck like that. So it is really an interesting thing. Who is this for, and when are you going to use it? Because, yeah, look, I don't know. And if you're interested, and God, if you're a Tesla fan and you want to just jump on the fact that, he doesn't know how to do this, he doesn't know how to do that. The whole point, you idiots.
You are a poopy head.
If I know how to do everything, if I know all the rules and Tesla cheats and little tricks and things, what's the point? If I come in green, clean sheet of paper, not knowing all of your little bloody tech and secret punches, I'll come in, and if I can use the system, green, it shows how intuitive it really is. And it shows the learning of me with the system, but just how it really works. So put your self-righteous Tesla fandom, to one side and really look. So for everyone else who's a normal person, even if you own a Tesla and you're a normal person, it's actually really fascinating to sort of see. So it is, what I like is that here's the thing. If you own a Tesla, you have to have what is known as a hardware 4 car. So it needs to be the update Model 3 or the new Model Y. And they say that they're going to look at putting in the capability to roll back to older model cars, but they haven't set a time frame for that. If you've got one and you didn't buy full self-driving when you bought the car, it will come a subscription soon. So you could try it for a month or 2 months and sort of go, let's see if I'm ever going to use this. Because personally, I don't know, drive your car. Like if you're gonna do it. But if you are in the market, and this is the thing, if you're in the market for a car that you're running around town, you can handle an EV because you can plug it in, if you bought a new Model 3 base model, so the rear-wheel drive Model 3 with full self-driving, that's $65,000. That is under the luxury car tax threshold. You can get that on a novated lease for next to nothing. That's a bargain, right? It really is a bargain. So I think we may see Tesla sales start to make a turnaround, because I think this technology will push people to that brand just for the self-driving capability, because it is very impressive.
I don't know whether this is a question for Trevor Long or you, but I'll ask you anyway. What do you say about the rumours or the conspiracy theories that Tesla cars are spying on us?
Well, they say that, what was the other thing I saw, is that not just Teslas are spying on us, but apparently all the Chinese cars are spying on us. Look, the number of Chinese cars that I've been in that can't pair to Apple CarPlay correctly, let alone, record everything you say and beam it to a satellite and to a data center somewhere in Guangzhou. Like, I'm sorry, but the technology and the capability is there, but the reality of this is probably not a thing. However, cars, and especially Teslas, send data back to base. And so every Tesla is capturing data all the time. And part of your agreement when you buy your car and you get in, it is sharing that data back to Tesla. It's usually anonymous tagged, so it doesn't identify you or any specifics. But they get all that telemetry data from all their cars, and they're able to monitor that. So yeah, we are, again, if you don't want to be in a car that's potentially being monitored, buy an old car. But all of this stuff, even this Porsche that I'm in, it is permanently connected to the internet. So I could, with a Porsche app, I can log into it, I can lock it, I can unlock it, so it has convenience features for me. But there are many cases where a lot of these car brands are sending data back for engineering purposes. And I remember a couple of years ago, I spoke to the then CEO of Volvo, who was saying, why are we bothering to put in massive, heavy 100 kilowatt hour, 900 kilometer range electric batteries when all of our data and they look at the data of the electric cars they've sold in market, they can capture this data and they go, on average, they're going 40 kilometers a day. So why don't we offer them with smaller batteries that makes them cheaper, lighter, faster to charge? Because they're seeing this data. And so famously, when the Nissan GTR came out, the R35 GTR, it had a GPS capability that knew when you drove it to a racetrack, and it would unlock it into full performance massive attack mode. But it would also tell your local Nissan dealer what you were up to, so that they could basically prepare you for coming in the next day to go and get all your fluids redone and your brakes redone at great cost. So it was one of those things that it's like you were never able to get away from it, because the car was like, hey, I've gone to Sandown, better get some oil to top me up tomorrow, and that'll be $1,000, thank you very much. So this is happening, and it is real. Insofar as if you are being monitored for what you're saying in the car, and is a Ford Mustang, every time you potentially poke apart the American political system and the chaos that is happening, over there at the moment, is a Mustang going to be beaming it back to the NSA? I doubt it, right? So,
do you know who I see who would really value this information? Insurance companies.
Yeah, the black box data.
Yep.
Suspicious.
Yeah, well, this is it. So Teslas, again, talking about them, they have cameras and BMW has this now too, where the parking cameras work as a black box. So if the car is involved in an accident, it's constantly recording on in the BMW, I think it's like a 40 or 50 second loop. So you've got the last 50 seconds of what happened prior to a collision. And the Teslas have that capability for, what do they call it? Sentry mode. So you see these videos go up of where people, will bash into a car. And you see these people keying Teslas. And it's like, for God's sake, the car hasn't done anybody. Stop being such a dickhead. But you see the car is able to record this. So a lot of this technology does exist. And again, if you are a little bit tinfoil and you're worried that big state secrets are being monitored in your car and all that kind of, get an old car. Just be done. Go and get a manual so it doesn't get stolen. Yes. And get an older car so it doesn't get monitored, and enjoy your life. Mind you, it will be a petrol car. And, well, look, I know we're going to talk about it in a second, that potentially petrol and diesel wanting to be phased out, but I'm going to tell you now, in our lifetime, you'll never not be able to buy petrol. It's not, there's too much legacy here to do it, particularly in road fleet. But sales of petrol cars and new energy vehicles, so petrol cars by pure petrol cars, are at the lowest market share they have ever had. Whereas new energy vehicles, and that is full electric, plug-in hybrid, or just hybrid like a Camry. So plug-ins and regular hybrids have petrol engines as well. They will overtake market share of pure petrol by early next year, I reckon.
All right, you know me. I am definitely not one for rabbit food, but these new Power Bee Bite Bars from Nature Bee, they are the real deal. Crunchy chocolate caramel, peanut, honey, choc chip, proper flavors, real flavors. And here's the kicker. Each one's got 5 grams of protein plus Nature Bee's famous power pollen to give you that natural lift. And they're just $14.95 a box. Perfect when you're on the go, between meals or need a pick-me-up on the road. It's a snack that actually fuels you, not just fills you. I chuck one in with my power pollen capsules in the morning, and I'm sorted for the day. You can grab a 6-month supply of Power Pollen for just $160, and they'll throw in an extra month and 2 bars of their famous pollen and honey soap for free. So if you want to level up your wellness routine, grab a box of Power Bee Bite Bars with your next order of Power Pollen. The links are in the description right now. Let's lead into that. The story is that the Australian government is now planning investments in low carbon liquid fuel. And of course, it's all in the bid to cut emissions. This comes in the wake of the first climate risk assessment report that came out last week. And there are concerns that the government really wants to eventually phase out petrol and diesel entirely. Your thoughts?
The government says a lot of things. And I could say that I also want to phase out certain things entirely. But if you're the government, you don't actually have to put a viable time frame on these things and put an action plan in place. You just have to say the words. So you think about this and the way we're going. Petrol cars and cars with petrol engines still are runaway majority of new cars that are being sold. And if you think we're selling roughly 1 million cars a year, say, let's go crazy. Let's just say half of them use petrol, and it's way more than half. But anyway, so let's say we're adding 500,000 new cars to the roads every year. That's adding 500,000 new cars. Now, there are millions of petrol cars on the road in Australia right now. You cannot simply, through government policy, say we are no longer going to support the mobility of those vehicles and those Australians because of a position. Now, what is happening, because let's face it, climate change and the requirements here, there's part of it are the CO2 emissions, so the exhaust gases that come from cars, and part of it is in the refining and oil process. Petrol is just one product from oil, right? Plastics are the biggest product. You got all these things that come out of the ground that we make. You're never going to stop everything. So let's just call it now. We are not going to stop oil mining, production, refining kind of thing. If we're wanting to look just at the emission side of things, new cars, and with the benefit of electrification, so you're getting hybrids and things coming in, all new cars are more efficient than all older cars. So every new petrol car we add to the road, let's say you go and buy a Camry, which is a petrol, it was a 2.5 litre petrol with a hybrid system, and you replace a 3.8 litre 6-cylinder Commodore, that Camry may still have a petrol engine, but it is probably more than twice as efficient as that Commodore, way more, right? And so every modern car that we're adding to the loop, they are more efficient and less polluting than the cars that we have previously had. So we are doing this already. And like I said, the new energy graph will overtake pure petrol, I reckon, in February next year. Like, it is happening that quickly. That doesn't mean that we're buying more electric cars. We're buying more electrified cars. And that's RAV4s are the best example here. They're all hybrid. So they all have a petrol engine, but they all have an electric motor and a battery. Now, that helps with efficiency and emissions. That car is, for the owner, it is more efficient. So it costs you less to run. But for the environment, that car has lower emissions. So it's not polluting as much as an older RAV4 or an older car. So then you look at our road fleet of transport, large transport and trucks. Now, trucks basically run on diesel. Australia runs on trucks. We don't have a viable rail network. We are very sparsely populated. You look at our industry, our mining, they're all running on diesel. Now, diesel has an option of being able to be easily adjusted to be repowered to run, say, biodiesel and potentially hot hydrogen. Costs money, but it's not hard technically to repower existing diesels to run on a hydrogen combustion system, which is better for the environment, doesn't require mass electrification because it's repowering existing things, but still has massive cost implications. It has all these things. So the soapbox of government where they can go, oh, we want to do this. It's not, it's an amazing, easy thing to say, but the reality of doing this in a forced way is near impossible. But when you look at what is actually happening already, we are moving away from pure petrol. We are moving towards more efficient vehicles because they suit us as drivers and buyers. And that's where the technology is happening. So the government can't take credit for that. Anyone out there that's bought a hybrid, you take credit for that. Don't let Albo steal your thunder.
Okay, but you talked about the importance of our trucking industry. Is diesel here is diesel here longer than petrol?
They're both. I think they're parallel kind of things because again, they're refined. Diesel is a lower refined product than unleaded. But you can't just simply imagine saying, as of this year, there's no more diesel. You look at all of those trucks that are on the road. What are they going to do? What is the alternative? And what is the solution? And you can't go, oh, we're going to electrify them. You look at how are you going to build the new electric trucks to replace the old diesel trucks in said time frame? Like it just doesn't make sense. It's like when you start to run the maths of building the Death Star. It just doesn't make sense. It can't happen.
If diesel is less refined than petrol, why is it so expensive?
Well, people got to make money, Luke. Like this is the thing. Look, and it is one of those things. Diesel used to be less than petrol, but it still costs to do, and it's not so much the actual extraction and refining process. It's all the other bits and pieces, the logistics, because the more that it costs, you think, how do we get fuel in our cars? They get delivered to a petrol station in a diesel truck, and that truck needs to fill up. And so when the fuel prices go up, that truck that's delivering the petrol, it costs more to deliver the petrol. Therefore, the petrol costs more money. And then that truck, when it fills up, costs more. It's a cycle. The idea that we will move away from some of these fossil fuels, I know that we are working towards that. But let's be really clear. This government and all those people that sit in Canberra, none of them are responsible for this. This is something that's going to happen over decades of time. They're a 4-year government, right? Like they're in and out. So I love how they all say, we're going to do this, we're going to try this. What is the solution to the alternative is always the question to ask. And we are naturally moving towards more efficient technology, because that's what if you go buy a new car today to replace a 5 or a 10-year-old car, regardless of what it is, that new car will be more efficient and less polluting because we have evolved. We're getting better at this. The government didn't do that. The car manufacturers did, and you did by buying it. So it's the credit where credit's due. But repowering a truck fleet, hydrogen is a technical solution, but it's not a viable implementation solution yet because hydrogen itself costs so much money. And to repower those cars, it does cost money, but it's not like building a whole new fleet of things that run on unicorn tears and great intentions.
James Ward is with us. Look, if you go to drive.com.au, there's a fantastic article written by Jay Credentino. It was written back in May of 2024, but I looked at it and it talks about the pros and cons and talks you through how to negotiate buying a used car. And we can get into this in more detail on our next episode. Oh, he's disappeared.
Stupid glitches!
James, your internet just dropped out and I'm going to have to continue this conversation on the phone. So what would have happened if your internet had dropped out while driving the Tesla from Sydney to Melbourne?
Yeah, no, that is a great question. So if it had lost connection to internet, it would have had trouble with the GPS, but it wouldn't have stopped driving because all of that onboard analysis, like the car has cameras and processing power on board.
Yep.
It's doing all of that live in the moment. So as a unit, it doesn't go back to satellite to work out what's happening. So the idea that it may say, hey, I've lost GPS, I can't navigate anymore, and it may then hand it back over to you, but the car is doing a lot of, basically all of the self-driving stuff on board by itself.
Yeah, it scares me. But anything I don't understand scares me. That's why, I never invested in Bitcoin. So, there you are.
I know. No, but both of us, right? We're going to be sitting on Skid Row in an old washing machine box because we didn't buy crypto because we didn't understand it.
Exactly. Riding BMXs.
Yeah.
James, we'll go into this in a bit more detail next time we talk. And that is, I want a detailed conversation with you about going through the process of buying a used car. Not a new one, a used car. Now, the reason for this is my daughter has sold her little white Hyundai, the one that had the paint problem, the factory paint problem.
Yes. Yes.
Now, I forget how much she paid for it, and she got it on finance through a dealer. She paid the whole thing off. The car hasn't owed her money for quite some time. She's incredible. She's an incredible saver. She's very, very diligent. But I forget how much she paid for it. You might be able to tell me. Holly's little white Hyundai, I think she paid over $30,000.
Yeah. They were a good buy at the time. But
how much were they?
Oh, they would have been in the 20s. Surely that would have been like a 25,990 style sort of car.
Yeah. It's between 25 and 30. She paid the whole thing off on finance, so she paid a lot of money. She only got the most she could sell it for was $5,000. She said, Dad, what's the point of buying a new car besides the warranty? What's the point? The devaluation, and she only had 130,000 Ks on it because she only drove it locally. So she's now in the market for a used car. She looked at a BMW X1 that had just a scrape under 100,000 Ks, 17,000. Now, I don't know what they were brand new. You'd know because you had one. In fact, I think you've had a couple.
Yeah. They'd be sort of 60, 70 grand.
Okay, so she's found two in her price range with reasonable Ks, 17,000 and 18,000. And she's still thinking. She's overseas at the moment. And the good thing is she's if you'll pardon the pun, she's in the driver's seat. She's got cash. She's not going to borrow money. And she's in no hurry. So that's a good place to be in. But her question is, why would you buy a new car?
Look, you mentioned the W word just before. Warranty is the main reason. And look, okay, let's buying a new car, the one that you go in and you choose the color and the seats and the wheels, and you are the first person. That experience is pretty cool, right? Like a lot of people, that is a reward of something, hard work. A lot of people love that idea of it's for me and it's mine. So let's park the emotional connection to buying a new car because I completely understand that.
Mm-hmm.
Then the warranty thing. So buying a new car, especially now, you've got cars with 5, 7, 10-year warranties on them. So you are getting all of this support from a car and the peace of mind of knowing that if something was to go wrong, the manufacturer's got your back. You're kind of protected. You don't get any surprises because if you're buying a second-hand car that's outside of its warranty, if something goes wrong, you're kind of stuffed. And on some of these cars, and look, we saw there was a number of, early 2000s Volkswagen products. So Volkswagens and Audis that have a specific gearbox in them that when it hits the end of its life, you can't repair it. You have to replace it. And it's a $7,000 job. And you see these people go, well, I bought a Golf and it cost me $3,500. And then I had to spend $7,000 on it. And you think that's the problem, right? Is outside of warranty, you may be buying a cheaper car, but you do have costs and you need to weigh all of these things up. But what we're seeing now is the manufacturing process. So for brands to be able to warrant a 7 or a 10-year car, that's a better built car. That's a car that is going to last longer and generally be more reliable. So buying a newer second-hand car, even if it is outside a warranty or only has, like you think, if you went and bought a 4-year-old Kia today, that still has 3 years warranty left. It's pretty amazing. So buying a not brand new car, you can save thousands on new car price. Sure, it's been driven. Someone else has had it. You don't maybe get the choice, but you are able to save a lot of money. And in Holly's point, she's going to go from a Hyundai to a BMW, right? Like to sort of say, I've got a $60,000 car that was, a few years ago is now a sub $20,000 car. That's what the market is. And at the moment, it is very much a buyer's market. So if you are the shopper, you are in control because new cars are on sale all the time. And so as new car prices come down and new car deals get sharper, used car deals get sharper because let's face it, if you could go into a cherry dealer and buy for 24 grand, drive away that new Tiggo Pro, the Tiggo 4, why on earth would you spend more on a secondhand Kia Stonic? Because it's the whole thing. If you're spending 25 grand on a brand new car, surely you either get a bigger used car or you're paying less for a used car. It just pushes it all down. So at the moment, for buyers, it is a great thing. My recommendation, unless you are connected, you've got a good mechanic or you're able to do a pre-purchase inspection, as we've spoken about a couple of times, buying a car outside of warranty, particularly a European car, do a lot of maintenance research first because some of these cars do have expensive components. Even needing to get brakes done can be thousands of dollars. So find out what a car's service history is. That is so important and more important than its mileage. If a car has been looked after and serviced, generally going to be moving into a better product. And yeah, if a deal is too good, it's too good no matter what. So you don't rush in. Always take a friend. Do get a pre-purchase inspection. You can get a great deal. You can get a great car for a very good price, but definitely don't rush into these things. Do look for what we're calling at Drive a used car. So it might be a current model car, but it's still got some warranty on it, which means you've got a bit of protection outside of that new car purchase.
Yeah, the warranty is the big thing. It's funny, I watched a small documentary on YouTube just the other day about a guy who had a Porsche and he'd spent a lot of money on it, 7 or 8 grand. He bought it cheaply. And then he thought, well, I'm sick of this now. I'm going to take it to a dealer and see what sort of trade I can get on it. He was offered only 5 and he'd spent so much money on it. But it's when the dealer did the check, before even looking at the paint, before doing anything, wanted to see the service history and specifically looked to see how often the oil had been changed and the oil filters. First thing he looked for.
Yep. The service history is so, so important because you think if you have a car, let's say you're buying the quintessential old lady car. It was bought new. It's never driven. It's maybe 5 years old. It's got less than 50,000 Ks on it, so it's practically never been driven. But if it's never been serviced, you've got all sorts of problems coming because cars need regular maintenance, no matter what, and again, electric cars need less maintenance, but they still need maintenance. So looking at the service history beyond, because again, if you've got a car that's been doing what we like to refer to as country miles, it may have been doing a good couple of 100K commute, so it may have higher than average Ks. But if it's been serviced regularly, that is a much better buy than a car with lower mileage on it that's never been serviced. So that is 100%. Service history is the most important thing.
All right, James, let's go into buying a used car for dummies in more detail next time we talk. If you go on to drive.com.au on their YouTube channel, you can see James's expedition and experiment in the Tesla, driving Sydney to Melbourne completely unassisted. It's fascinating stuff to watch. And what do you got coming up?
What have we got coming up? I've got a TV special going to air in October, all about buying value. So looking at best value new cars, the amount of value you can get in a new car, and we look at some other options, but across the range. So we look at hatchbacks, SUVs, utes, all sorts of things. We are in preparation for our Car of the Year testing. So we'll announce our 2026 Car of the Year awards in 2026, but we have to do our testing this year, so we're in progress for that. What else have we got coming up? Oh, and I will be going to, late October, to the Tokyo Motor Show. because some big news there. New Mazda CX-5, new Toyota RAV4, and a new Honda Prelude will be all shown. So I'll be doing, I think it's a cross on the Today Show for that. So when that's there, end of October, you'll be able to see me and Carl and Sarah. I'll cross to them from Tokyo and we can show some new stuff that's coming.
And maybe you and I can talk while you're there. That'd be great.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
James Ward, good luck with your internet. Thank you for finishing this off on the phone. But we got there, and that's technology for you.
Or perhaps it is I who is the glitch.
This is it. You need Trevor to tell me what I need for my portable internet. And what's funny, my laptop's nearly running out of battery, so I've got it plugged into the car here to hopefully charge it before everything uploads. But such are the trials of being on the road.
We love you, James. Thank you so much. You're great. Drive.com.au. That is James Ward, their content director and our resident Bonafide car expert. And we'll catch up soon.
Legend, mate. We'll talk soon.
Coming up, Rod Hannafy and Truckee Tuesday.
Got your diesel running. Head out on the highway. Missing all the roadkill. Another Truckee Tuesday. Indicate when you're changing from lanes. Do not brake check me in my prime. Strelly moves and it's thanks to you guys. Trucks to get there on time. Listen to the air horns. Dip your lights from high beam. HPL that help you. Thanks to Rock and a Food. On the highway driving all day. And at night when the traffic's slow. Getting goods from state across lines. We're ready to go. Without trucks, Australia stops. They're driving around the clock. Never, never giving up. Drive safe tonight. Drive left-hand side.
Time for Truckee Tuesday with the road warrior, Rocket Rod Hannafy, who is in a town that is so good they named it twice. Wagga,
That's a fact.
Wagga Wagga. Indigenous word for place of many crows, place of many crows.
Yes.
Truckee Tuesday is proudly brought to you by Ice Pack, toughest there is. The original Aussie sleeper cab aircon, keeping truckies on the road cool and comfortable for 30 years. Now, here's something I love, and Ice Pack insisted on it. If you're a Brizzy-based truckie, for a limited time, mention the code LUKE10, LUKE10, Luke 10, and not only will you score their truck show special, 10% off any new install. But IcePack will throw in a free auto start kit valued at $680, one per customer. That's real value from a brand that gives a damn about the drivers keeping this country running. So don't sweat it out on the highway. Trust the one truckies swear by. IcePack, the toughest there is.
Yes.
Wagga Wagga.
So they used to have a festival here called the Stoned Crows Festival.
That's right.
And it was where a lot of caravanners and motorhomers all came together, and I attended for a few years and did seminars and talks, and it went down very well. I was very much welcomed. The gentleman here was involved in what used to be Rig Radio many years ago. It was a truckies radio show on the Community Radio Network, and came out of Wagga every morning for a few years.
There was another truckie show that we used to run in Bathurst overnight. It was a taped show, and it was called Big Rig Radio.
Ah.
And then when I was at 2LF, we had the Nev Nichols Road Show.
Yes. I've spoken to Nev. It's been a long time now, of course, and he was one of the few that did trucking albums at the time.
Yeah, the Nev Nichols Road Show. I'll never forget it. So there you go. Rod, there's a bit to talk about today, so we'll jump straight into it. And before we get into some of the trucking news that we need to cover, got a message from Mick. He says, I listen to Spotify when I'm driving my bus around the Lower Hunter. I've been listening for years. I wanted to comment on the best driving advice I've ever got. My grandfather was a professional driver, and the one I looked up to, he wanted to take after him. The best advice he gave me was, when you're driving, you're not driving for yourself. You're driving for the 5 cars in front and the 5 cars behind. The other advice he gave me was give way to the right and watch the idiot on the left. Cheers, Luke. Love that you found a way to continue. That's a nice message from Mick and good advice.
Certainly is, and does go along with our defensive driving, looking around you and being aware of your situation.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Defensive driving, we discussed that in the previous podcast. It's not looking at the car in front, it's looking 5 or 6 ahead and trying to predict what's going to happen. And great that he wanted to take after his grandfather.
Yes, it's good to see that you've got a good role model. Not everybody does. It's one of the things, of course, with having to have your driving hours. If you've got family and they've got cars and you've got plenty of friends, that's good. But if you live in a smaller community, it's pretty hard to get those hours up, and particularly if your family doesn't have, a time to help you out. And it's just one of the things where I do think that it's definitely worthwhile having those hours as part of the requirement. But I suppose it just makes it harder for some and easier for others. And that's where there has been discussion of whether you have a driving school lesson that you get a little bit more credit for it rather than just an hour with mum and dad, that maybe a professional lesson should be worth more if you're prepared to pay for it and or you can't get that done through family.
But it does raise the question I asked, and that is we fully endorse taxpayer-funded swimming lessons. Should there be tax-funded or subsidised defensive driving lessons for all L-platers?
I honestly believe it's worth the effort to include it. I think we would make a change in people's attitudes. It's simply education in a way. As we've discussed, you get taught by watching mum and dad. And if they're aggressive or, whatever the case may be, or they teach you bad habits, then you're going to carry them forward. If someone gives you good advice and explains that it's not just about you, like old mate said, that it is about everybody else and being situationally aware and making a decision to actively drive safely rather than simply get in and I'm going to be there and that's the end of it, I think over time, mate, we'd save lives, and I think it would be a worthwhile investment.
Yeah, it's worth a debate, isn't it? Let us know what you think. Luke Boda, radioguy@gmail.com, and leave us a voice message. And if you'd like to be included in any of our topics, leave your contact details and the Millennial will get in touch with you because we'd love to talk. Now, we got this voice message from Jim.
Hey, Lukey, mate, about the best advice you've ever received as far as driving goes. My ex-wife, of all people, pointed out to me once, approaching a high-speed intersection, such as a T intersection, for instance, if you're turning left, a lot of people only look to the right to see if there's anything coming, and I almost got wiped out because I was one of those people. And, she suggested to me that maybe I should look to the left as well in case there's something overtaking. And, this one time I looked left as well into a 100k zone and, saw that there was one semi overtaking a B double and that would have wiped me out a month earlier.
Yeah. I got hit by a car when I was 6 turning 7 and on the Wakehurst Parkway and pretty seriously too. I was in hospital for a while and I looked right, I looked left, but I didn't look right again. And bang, I was knocked over. And you only do that once, Rod.
Yes, well, that's it. Kids don't sort of think of those things when they're that age. You're not motivationally aware sort of thing, I suppose. And we know about kids running out into traffic and things like that. And it's a terrible thing when it happens. And sometimes there is what is simply an accident that somebody, you can't control everything around you, but you can do your best to try and anticipate. It's not simply the speed, it's speed for the conditions. So if you're doing 40 kilometres an hour round a corner that's a slippery road and it's a blind corner and you lose control, the speed was too high for the conditions, even though it might be a 60k zone. So it is the responsibility of the driver, not just to follow the rules, but Mate, if we could include common sense in that defensive driving, I think we'd save 100 lives every year.
Let's keep going. We got this voice message from Tony. I'm keen to have a listen.
G'day, Luke. Tony from Inglewood. I've got a couple of things. One with Rod. Is there anything that the Federals can do to legislate that the NHBR has the rights, the sole rights, say, to look at truck issues apart from whether you're breaking the actual road law? So logbooks, all that sort of stuff. Get state police out of it because they're just looking to make money.
He's not alone, and it's not just about state police. In WA, the police do not act against truck drivers on anything other than road rules. So you go through a stop sign, they pull you up. You speed, they pull you up. They do not look at your logbook because in WA you don't have to have one. They work under OH&S. People think that's a fairer system. I've got to say that there are certainly those who believe that some of the state police are revenue raising as opposed to improving road safety, and not all of them fully understand our rules or regulations, and they find something that they can pick you up on that has nothing to do with road safety and you get a ticket out of it, and they know that it's very hard to fight. NHVR are building. I have spoken to Paul Salvati. He's the 2IC, and at this stage we're hoping to have him on the podcast possibly next week or the week after. A couple of things to discuss with him. They have a new CEO, and we're waiting to see sort of what that future will come under that new CEO. She's a lady that's come from New Zealand. So perhaps in a few months we'll get a direction from them on where they're going and might get to talk to the CEO. But if NHVR control the rules, and they are the people that police them. They don't make the rules. They are given the rules specifically by the NTC, the National Transport Commission. So we can't argue that they should fix everything, although that would be nice. But again, there is talk that they should include licensing, that they should be responsible for that. They should have input into roads and conditions, and certainly into rest areas and things like that. They don't have the responsibility for it, yet they fine us if we don't comply. So the reasonable argument would be they should then have responsibility through the government to provide rest areas and make sure that those facilities are there. It's something we'd like to see, but whether we can wrest that responsibility from the states and give it to a federal body, mate, it's going to be a big fight because they didn't like giving up the rules and the responsibility to NHVR at the start. To get it done, I think it would be better overall to have one responsible body. But, mate, I think it's going to be a hard fight. But if you think so, tell your poly as well, mate, because the more you tell, then the more likely we are to have them listen when it gets to a point we can act on it.
Rod, it was an eye-catching headline, and I'm dying to know your thoughts on all of this. Australia to phase out petrol and diesel after the first climate risk assessment report. According to the report, the Australian government's planning investments in low-carbon liquid fuel. What they want to do is cut emissions, and this decision was made after that climate risk assessment report held in Canberra last week. And there are concerns that this could mean eventually phasing out petrol and diesel entirely. The Albanese-led government has announced a $1.1 billion investment in low-carbon liquid fuels. Now, before I get your thoughts on this, Rod, I was speaking recently with James Ward, our motoring expert from drive.com.au, and he had this to say. Listen carefully to what James Ward has had to say about the phasing out of petrol, and in particular on this occasion, diesel.
Diesel used to be less than petrol, but it still costs to do, and it's not so much the actual extraction and refining process, it's all the other bits and pieces, the logistics, because the more that it costs, you think, how do we get fuel in our cars? They get delivered to a petrol station in a diesel truck, and that truck needs to fill up. And so when the fuel prices go up, that truck that's delivering the petrol, it costs more to deliver the petrol, therefore the petrol costs more money, and then that truck, when it fills up, costs more. It's a cycle. the idea that we will move away from some of these fossil fuels, I know that we are working towards that, but let's be really clear. This government and all those people that sit in Canberra, none of them are responsible for this. This is something that's going to happen over decades of time. And they're a 4-year government, right? Like they're in and out. So yeah, I love how they all say, we're going to do this, we're going to try this. What is the solution to the alternative is always the question to ask. And we are naturally moving towards more efficient technology, because that's what, if you go buy a new car today to replace a 5 or a 10-year-old car, regardless of what it is, that new car will be more efficient and less polluting because we have evolved. We're getting better at this. The government didn't do that. The car manufacturers did, and you did by buying it. So it's the credit where credit's due. But yeah, repowering a truck fleet, hydrogen is a technical solution, but it's not a viable implementation solution yet, because hydrogen itself costs so much money. And to repower those cars, it does cost money, but it's not like building a whole new fleet of things that run on unicorn tears and great intentions.
What do you make of this thought bubble that perhaps down the track we will be phasing out petrol and diesel from a trucking point of view? Is that possible?
Not at the moment. My understanding is that rail is, if not the biggest, one of the top 3 users of diesel, because most of the rail locomotives are diesel electric. So, to say that they're going to phase it out, yes, if you've got trains running in the city, and we can see them running on electricity in certain places, but as he said, anything outside of that, the rail for mining is the amount of diesel they use in running everything on the mine sites. That's phenomenal. And the diesel that the industry, the trucking industry, supplies to the mining industry and the rail industry is just virtually without it, the whole of Australia would stop, mate. So it's something, as he said, to say in the future we aim to. It's not going to happen overnight. I don't think it's going to happen in my lifetime. And whilst they're looking at hydrogen for trucks, I think it has more potential, certainly than electric trucks on long haul, on long distance interstate. Without diesel at the moment, we'd grind to a halt, mate. So it's going to be a few years yet. And there are still opportunities, like the diesel engines come a long way, and those that say that it's a dinosaur are right in some ways, but it's always improving. So we're going to be using diesel for many years yet.
James also mentions biodiesel there. What's that?
Biodiesel is using plant-based things. We actually had our own biodiesel plant. We used tallow initially, so tallow from animal carcasses was a byproduct of that. The trouble with the tallow, I'm sure that Luke, it's a bit like dripping. When it gets very cold, it goes very thick, and it didn't work effectively. We changed over to canola oil, and there was a very big biodiesel industry in Australia for a little while, but the investment incentive wasn't there. There's very few people using it now in the scheme of things, because at the time you could save money in the cost, but then they changed the way that the taxation worked on biofuel. And, mate, I don't think there's very many using it now. So it's another option, but it takes investment to do it. And then the trucks do have to change a little bit. Like our standard trucks ran on biofuel, but we had so much trouble with it. Mate, virtually every truck in the fleet had a new engine in it because of the fact that it wasn't set up properly. And when they took away the incentive for the investment in it, it just virtually died overnight. There's probably still a couple using it, but it's a long way from being a replacement again at the moment.
Rod, a couple of years ago when you and I were broadcasting on the Triple M network, there was a national AdBlue shortage, and you can explain that in a second, but every truckie listening to us now knows what AdBlue is, but people who aren't truckies may have seen it for sale in those plastic canisters at the servo. But AdBlue was something that it was a fluid that you put in a diesel engine to try and reduce nitrogen oxide. Explain that.
Mate, when we're currently at Euro 5 in Australia, we're about to go to Euro 6, regulations for trucks in exhaust emissions. So when they first came in, probably about Euro 3, there were two options. There was EGR, exhaust gas recirculation, and what that virtually meant that as the exhaust came out of the engine, it was recirculated back through the engine again to clean it further. Now, virtually people said, well, you're putting shit in your engine. And that's what it was. You were putting the exhaust back through, and it created a hell of a lot of trouble on the road with trucks. The other was SCR, selective catalytic reduction. And that means you have an additional AdBlue tank. You don't put AdBlue into the diesel, but you have an additional tank which carries AdBlue, and that is put into the exhaust stream, and it reacts and reduces, as you say, the nitrous oxide. But it's another cost, so virtually you've got two different fuels. It does get mixed. It does add a cost to the running of the truck, but it does reduce emissions. And the Euro 6, many of the Euro 6s are using both of those technologies now, whereas EGR, when it first came in, was very costly. It created a hell of a lot of drama with engines and failures and high running costs, very high engine temperatures.
Volvo had put these Bosch AdBlue pumps on, not realised how many were going to like crap themselves once they got to Australia.
Yeah.
And I think they'd put like a diaphragm in the pumps backwards or something. And so we're having like entire fleets being stood down. And it didn't like make the news or anything, but it was getting to the point where places were starting to run, like mines, farms, truck yards and everything were running out of fuel because the fuel trucks couldn't be moving. And like on-road trucking is so monopolised in Australia that there's only one or two clients who transport fuel, and all of their trucks were down. And so like no one could get any fuel.
But they have refined it. As I said, they're still getting better. And with those two technologies now, they believe that in some places in America, mate, the trucks are actually putting out cleaner exhaust than the air they're taking in.
So it's a legal requirement to put AdBlue in your vehicle. If you don't put it... first question, does AdBlue affect performance?
No, it does not. But with all the electronics in the engines, if you run out of it, it'll eventually derate you and say, hey, you have got no AdBlue in this. I'm going to derate you and punish you until you get it back in and become compliant again.
Right. That was my next question. If you don't put AdBlue in and you try and reduce your overheads, the truck knows and you get reported, do you?
Yes, it does. Look, there's people who always find ways around systems, Luke. As I said, when EGR first came out, it created so much drama with engines. Some companies did disconnect it. A couple did get caught and get fined, and they got fined pretty seriously too. If you now take your truck into a dealership that is one of the engine manufacturers or a truck manufacturer, and they let it out when it's not compliant, they are liable for doing that as well. So whilst it added cost and people don't like that, other people say that, of course, as Australia, our contribution to climate change is probably one of the smallest in the world because of our population and our large country population compared to the size of the country we're in. Places like India and China that have got billions of people contribute a lot more. And then, some people say, why should we pay higher transport costs to take 0.1% off climate change? But everybody in the world's got to contribute. We've just got to find the best way to do it that doesn't increase those costs or then have engines self-destruct when they shouldn't.
So there you are. Every truckie listening knows all about AdBlue, but for our non-truckies, when you go into a servo and you see it in the big containers there, now you know what it is.
And we do get it from Bowsers as well, mate. Most of them have Bowsers for it now.
Okay. I see. I don't look for the Bowser AdBlue, but you can't help but see it for sale in a lot of service stations. How much is it? How much would you use in a year as far as money's concerned?
Mate, I run roughly a tank of AdBlue, which is about 120 litres, to my 2 tanks of diesel. It's currently, it depends on where you buy. Now, you spoke of that shortage, Luke. There were people that were gouging pretty badly. Like some people were charging nearly $5 a litre at the time. So that's a big increase in cost. Generally now you buy it in servos for $1.99, $2 a litre. Occasionally you'll get it cheaper, but I saw it somewhere for $2.99 a litre. So, mate, you know, people quibble about a little bit of difference in the cost of their fuel in the car, but $1 a litre difference. And I actually complained to the servo at the time. I said, mate, what's the go with this? Oh, that's the company policy. I said, well, that company policy is wrong, and I'm telling you right now that I'm going to tell people about it, and I would like a complaint lodged. I haven't been back there to check it yet, but, you know, people will cheat you where they can, Luke, and I've got to say, if anybody is paying more than $2 at the Bowser, because you buy those bottles, Luke, it works out about $5 a litre if you buy the bottle. But if you're paying any more than $2 at the Bowser, you're being ripped off and you should complain about it.
So from the trucking industry's point of view, and I don't know, you used to speak on behalf of the trucking industry, but as a spokesperson or a voice for the truckies, is Australia's chase for net zero, as far as transport's concerned, are we paying more for groceries and even the petrol and the diesel that we use at the servo is delivered by a truck using diesel and AdBlue? Are we paying more for our goods and the groceries on our shelves because of this chase for net zero?
It's very simply yes, because the technology has changed. As I say, we are going to mandate the use of Euro 6 trucks. Now, many of the manufacturers will say they are more fuel efficient, but that costs money to invest in it. It costs infrastructure, like to set up the AdBlue distribution network. It costs that because we are not only just running the truck on diesel, but we are using AdBlue in conjunction with that. So each of those is a cost. And yes, it wouldn't be a great amount, but it's all market-driven. It's driven by those very big companies who see distribution as an added cost they don't want. So we want it delivered yesterday for nothing. And I only had a mate the other day say he's got a bloke that's got 5 trucks. He's working for a large national distribution transport company, and he's been told that he has to reduce his costs by 20% or they'll find somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Now, mate, they're dreaming because every single cost has gone up. Not just wages, the cost of fuel has gone up, AdBlue's gone up, tyres have gone up. And for someone to be put in that position simply because a large multinational says, we want you to do it cheaper, I don't know how the hell you're supposed to do it, mate. A truckie deserves to be paid fairly. We live in a truck, we live on the road, and remind me about the Bruce Highway in a minute. We'll talk about that. But to be fair, we are pushed and pushed down by those that have the power to do so. And I don't think it's unreasonable that we should be paid fairly and that the industry should make a profit to be able to invest and do it properly and safely.
Okay, Rod,
Yep.
Let's cool off for a second and chat about the one thing that truckies complain about the most, getting a good night's sleep. I know you swear by Ice Pack.
Yes, they've been one of my supporters for many years, and I really think their product is terrific.
Let me tell the folks why. They were the first sleeper cab aircon on the market back in 1995.
Right.
They're Aussie-made, built tough, with a Kubota engine, and still the most trusted name out there. Doesn't matter if you're hauling local or interstate. Ice Pack keeps you sharp, safe, and really importantly, well-rested.
And mate, the most important thing about ice packs is they give you a set temperature the whole night.
They've thought of everything. Auto start to protect your battery, wireless remote you can use from 100 metres away, and on the ES model, a heater option for those frosty nights. And right now, if you're getting your install done in Brisbane, mention the code LUKE10, 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 and you'll still get their truck show special. 10% off any new install, plus a free auto start kit valued at $680. Limited time, and there's one per customer. Head to their website, icepack.com.au to check out their models, their parts, and service agents right across Australia. That's why truckies trust IcePack, the toughest there is. We'll get on to the Bruce Highway in a second, but just one last thing on AdBlue. Can you remind us all why there was a national shortage which led to the gouging?
AdBlue is simply a mixture of urea. So if you've ever put urea into your garden, very highly nitrogen-based, and normally you buy it in a granular formulation. You throw it out on the lawn, and yet we made a lot of urea in Australia. Big company, is it ACI, I think it was, were making it in Australia, and it was made for the farming industry as well. But then, of course, AdBlue came along. It was a completely new product being produced. It then started using a lot of that urea, and ACI said, oh, well, we're not going to make it anymore. It's not profitable. They were claiming, I think, the biggest cost was the rise in the cost of natural gas, which they use in the process to produce it. And they were going to say that we're going to cease production, end of story, you've got to get it elsewhere. They went to go and try and buy it overseas, but everybody else was using it for agriculture. And because of that shortage of production in Australia, all of a sudden we were struggling to buy the stuff around the world and get it here because, as you say, it's mandated for use in trucks to be compliant and reduce emissions. So they struggled eventually. We bought it from here and there. I must admit, Luke, I don't know whether we still make it in Australia, and that's something we should follow up on.
Yeah, we absolutely should. Thank you. That really interesting stuff. AdBlue, nitrogen oxide with water. And it's a blue liquid, obviously. They weren't very creative when they named it.
Well, it's clear. It's not blue at all.
I've seen it blue.
Oh, right.
Or maybe
some that tinted.
Maybe I've just seen it in a blue container.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Anyway, there you are. If you've got any questions, if you've got any answers, Luke Boner, radioguy@gmail.com. Now, the Bruce Highway.
So we know of the large amount of money that's been put up. We know that there is a Bruce Highway Steering Committee that was formed before the money was announced, and there are 10 people on that committee. I know one of the gentlemen on there. He's a bloke by the name of Ken Wilson. He runs a website called Truck Friendly. He provides education for caravanners about sharing the road with trucks. He's one of the 10 on the committee. He rang me and said that he was being asked to contribute about fatigue on the Bruce. And also, I've got to say that the consultants that they have engaged to look at specifically fatigue and rest areas on the Bruce Highway reached out to the National Road Freighters Association. With my involvement in rest areas, they sent that to me. I put in a submission, and I followed up and rang the bloke up and said, look, I've put this submission in. Did you get it? What are your thoughts? So they've been out and done a road trip up and down the Bruce. They spoke to quite a number of truck drivers. But they also, at the very end, I spoke to the gentleman, mate. I spent probably an hour on the phone with him. My submission was probably about 2 or 3 pages. It also included rest area design and comments on what's currently there and the fact that I had suggested they do an audit first. Now, if you just drive up and down the Bruce Highway and you look at the signed rest areas, whether it's for cars or trucks, our view is there's not enough. Of course, the number of trucks, the number of cars, the number of caravans has increased over the years. They have not kept pace with that, and they certainly didn't have enough many years ago, let alone to be for the volume of traffic that's there now. Fatigue is another factor in crashes on the Bruce. Yes, some are speed, some are simply falling asleep on boring and bad bits of road, and they looked at that overall. Now, they not only looked at signed rest areas, they looked at the green reflectors that are up and down the Bruce. There's not a lot, but there are some. And from my submission both to TMR and previously, they did include stockpile sites. Now, you know what a stockpile site is, Luke? You drive along the road, and you know that every 3 years they come along and they resurface the road.
Right.
And on the side of the road, you will have a big pile of different sorts of gravel that they use when they resurface it. Now, they use that about 3 months every 3 years, and the rest of the time it sits there on the side of the road completely unused. Now, a lot of truckies know some of those sites. Some of us use them as stopping bays, as somewhere to sleep instead of beside another noisy truck. And to their credit, they've looked at those sites and they agree. If we tomorrow said, right, every stockpile site could be signed as a green reflector bay, and as long as it is suitable, might need a good entry exit, might need a tidy up, might need something, but we could double the number of rest areas, which would make places for truckies to manage their fatigue more available instead of driving into a truck bay and finding it full of caravans or other trucks. And then what do, Luke? You can't just park in the middle of the freeway and put the hazards on and go to bed. You've got to drive on to the next place. Sometimes people don't make it because they were tired. That's why they pulled into the bay in the first place. So they've done an audit. Yep. They've been up and down. They've spoken to drivers. They're going to include those things. They will be putting a report in. And he said, look, we are a consultant. We don't make the decisions, but we can influence them. And at the very end of it, mate, having spoken to me and other drivers, he said, I have a far greater respect now for truck drivers and what they do, because there are simply not enough facilities there now. And he said, are we in a third world country? He said, I spoke to one driver and he said he was busting and he had to go out and have a shit in the grass on the side of the road because there was nowhere else to do it. And we've discussed that, and it's been a problem for a long time, and I hope that they really come up with something that includes us and helps us be safer.
Yeah, interesting stuff. A little bit more trucking news thanks to Big Rig, and this is a really concerning story, Rod. It's the story of a teenager that's been arrested after throwing an object at a truck. This is in Katherine. A 16-year-old boy has been arrested for allegedly throwing an unknown object at a truck while it was driving over the Katherine Bridge in the Northern Territory. The truck sustained minor damage as a result of the incident, which happened last Thursday around 1:45 a.m. Further Northern Territory Police investigations have revealed the alleged offender had been involved in the theft of a push bike at a shopping centre on Katherine Terrace shortly after the truck was hit. Members from Strike Force Cerebus arrested a 16-year-old who remains in police custody at the dropping of this podcast. Charges are expected to follow. There was a real problem years ago about dickheads throwing bricks and rocks off overpasses onto cars and trucks. I know a lot of these overpasses now have safety wire, and it makes it very, very difficult. But is this an ongoing problem?
Mate, there was another recent issue just a little while ago with young kids. I'd really like to ask him why. Why do you think it's fun to do something as stupid as that could risk a truckie's life? And I'm sure you've seen, is it the Mark Lee Bridge coming southbound out of Sydney? It was named for a driver who was killed because somebody threw a rock over, smashed the windscreen, and he died because of it. I just cannot understand a mentality why you would think that's a fun thing to do. It happened in Bogabilla for quite a while, mate, many years ago. That seems to have calmed down, thank goodness. And it's one thing to throw it and think, oh, geez, we'll see what happens here. But what if it comes through the window and hits the driver in the head and then he comes across the road and runs over you? I wish they'd think that much further ahead. So absolute stupidity, and I'd like to ask the kid why he thought it was a good idea.
And just another example of the juvenile crime that's sweeping across the country. Unbelievable. I'm with you. Why? Why did you think that was a good idea? And look, here's something. I don't know this popular Outback Roadhouse, but you would. The Burke and Wills Roadhouse, strategically located at the aptly named Four Ways between Cloncurry and Normanton, where the Wills Development and Burketown roads meet the Burke Development Road. It's the only fuel stop for 200 kilometres, and a lot of trucks stop there on their long journeys. For the past 6 years, it's been run by owners Ben and Sherry Stranger. Apparently, it has great facilities and a top location with supplies, airports and fishing hotspots, all within a 2-hour drive. Every year, one of the questions that drivers get asked is, what is your favourite roadhouse? Burke and Wills is often the reply. Kay Remfrey has worked at the roadhouse for almost 7 years and said An average of 35 trucks stop there daily. We get them from all over the place, and their favourite foods are our special hamburgers and fillet steak, she said. Anyway, it's up for sale, Rod.
And it's something that is becoming a problem, Luke. There was one called Little Tub out before you get to Broken Hill. Now, it was sort of one of those in the middle of nowhere. Unfortunately, it closed down and people just couldn't survive there anymore. That's been replaced by fast food. And, of course, on major highways, the servos now virtually only sell fast food. It's very hard to find a kitchen that will cook you a meal. Talking to old mate on the Bruce, he said, I wonder how you blokes survive. He said, it's one thing to do a trip with your family and buy fast food from a servo, because that's all there is. But how you blokes survive on the road 6 days a week without the ability to buy a decent meal. And it's one of those things with those roadhouses, mate. I really hope they find someone that's prepared to get in and stay there, because those that we lose mean a big gap. Like you said, 200K either side. And we did at one stage have a little bit of success getting a roadhouse facilities improved at the Shell at Halfway Creek. There were some big holes there. And there's another example is the Shell at Mount Isa. Now, years ago, Shell had a lot of truck stops. They closed the kitchens in every single one in Australia. Some of them have had people go back in them. But the Shell at Mount Isa, mate, another critical place, has nothing there for us. And if it doesn't in those places, how do you restock? We can't just drive our B-double or triple road train into the supermarket there. So, mate, I wish them well. I'm glad they've been there. I hope that they enjoy their retirement, but I hope that we find someone who'll take it over and continue that service. Because for us, it's life and death in a way. That might be overstating it, Luke. But, geez, it's getting harder and harder to live and survive on the highway, and we really need those facilities out there.
You know, I think it really relies on two major factors. One, is it a money-making concern? Is it running at a profit? Is it worth it? Yep. And you're going to find people who are willing to live there.
Yes, particularly those remote ones. Little Topar was probably one of those. It was in the middle of nowhere, so getting staff was hard. And if you didn't want to live there yourself, no one's going to drive 2 hours to work each morning and home each night. But, of course, we need those facilities. You couldn't say Mount Isa is remote and difficult to get places, and many of those sites that were closed were profitable. It was a corporate thing. But, of course, the other thing to remember, Luke, is all of that stuff, no matter whether you're a major fuel retailer or the people running that site, it all comes there by truck. Without trucks, you don't have anything to sell. So if you can't recognise the people that are delivering everything you sell might need a meal, geez, mate, we're looking down a dark future. I've got to say that.
Do you know, and if not, someone listening will know, out of every litre of diesel or petrol that's sold, how much goes to the retailer? What slice of the pie do they get?
Of course, they will say it's a very small slice. The government takes the vast majority in excise.
Fuel excise, yeah.
Yep, and that's why our fuels are high compared to some in the world, but not to others. We spoke recently of the Razorback blockade, and that was initiated because we were paying road tax. That was tax that was supposed to go back into the roads. It was replaced with fuel excise, and again, that money is supposed to go into the roads. Unfortunately, most of it goes into consolidated revenue, and that's why we can't get our roads fixed. So we don't mind paying for the roads. We're not the only users. Without them, we can't deliver products because we've got a very decentralised country, not like America where they've got billions of people and can afford better roads. But, mate, it's something where we understand and we believe we more than pay our way towards the cost of roads. We can't live without them in Australia. That rail network you spoke of, it still runs on diesel, and trucks have to supply the diesel to the rail. So it's an overall thing that because of our decentralised nation, because of the fact that we have large communities separated by large distances, trucks do really carry Australia, but we're not looked after, we're not recognised, And that cost to retailers, as you say, they will say it's not enough. But then the government takes the biggest, and from our point of view, it doesn't go back into the roads, which is why we're supposed to pay it.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? I hope someone buys it. The Burke and Wills Roadhouse up for sale, folks. Make them an offer. What do they want for it, I wonder? We need to get them on the phone.
Mate, it'd be good to get someone who owns one, as you say, to answer that question. Is it profitable? What's the biggest issues? And I've got to say, you and I sat at Blackall one night and we had a discussion about Ampol, the Australian company. Mm-hmm. Most of their kitchens now have also been closed. They closed the kitchens. Now, it is about the cost of staff in making meals, having a short order chef. But again, everything they sell comes on trucks. We're not asking for a 5-course gourmet sit-down meal with waiters and a good wine list. We just need a decent meal to survive on the road, because I don't think living on fast food is good for your long-term health. And we need someone from either one of the fuel companies to come on and tell us why. They can answer your question on what money they earn. But someone from Burke and Wills or someone like that, somewhere remote, for them to call in and tell us their problems. And look, I know they have issues. There's certainly the issue of people stealing shower heads. Did you ever think that would be a problem, Luke?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, unbelievable. I couldn't believe it when you told me. I couldn't. Who goes into a truck stop shower and steals the shower heads?
Yes.
I couldn't.
What's wrong with people?
What is wrong with people? Well,
it's not us, mate, because we know there's not enough of them. But yeah, let's hope someone is happy to bring in and give us some of their side of the story.
But I would love to talk to the people selling it if we can find them. And if you've been to the Burke and Wills Roadhouse, tell us what's it like. Maybe we could try and find Kay Remfrey, who has worked there for maybe nearly 7 years. But I'd really love to talk to the owners, Ben and Sherry Stranger. So we'll try and get onto them as well for down the track.
And, mate, next time at my favourite truck stop where I get excellent rissoles and salad and have a lovely meal, I'll ask him if he's prepared to do a chat with us as well, because he's one of those little independent ones.
God, Rod Hannafy and his rissoles with onion gravy, folks. He loves it. It's funny you should mention Ampol, because a lot of younger Australians may not realise this, but Ampol stands for Australian Motorist Petrol Company. And it was founded back in, can you believe this, Rod, pre-World War II, 1936.
Right.
And the government of the day wanted an Australian-owned fuel company. Of course, now the modern Ampol Limited comes after Caltex's rebranding. Ampol is a leading Australian transport energy provider with a branded petrol and convenience network. There you are. It was the Australian Motorists Petrol Company, which was also where AMP comes from.
Right, okay. I wasn't aware of the naming. I knew it was Australian many years ago, and as you say, they paid a franchise fee to Caltex, or Techron in America, and they traded under the Caltex brand here for many years. Why, I don't know. They've now reverted to Ampol, so people will go around and say, oh, Ampol, geez, I wonder where they came from. Well, now you've just explained where they went. They just sort of went into hiding as Caltex, and now they're back as Ampol. But they have a bit to answer for in closing our kitchens, Luke.
All right. If you've ever worked at a truck roadhouse, what's it like? Are the profits there? And I want to know how much of the pie out of a litre of petrol or diesel goes to the retailer. Let us know. LukeBonerRadioGuy@gmail.com. Look, this is interesting. You know, the Pyrmont fish markets are currently under construction. Have you seen this new thing they're building there? It's unbelievable.
No, I haven't seen that one.
Oh, well, next time you're down at Pyrmont in Sydney, have a look. But the Pyrmont, the Pyrmont fish markets, and also Sydney's motorsport precinct could be turned into overnight rest areas for truckies. It's a bid to find fixes for the city's long-running truck parking issues. You see, you've got an $80 million dedicated truck parking area in Eastern Creek. That's stuck in the early planning stages. But, so Blacktown Council, in a response to a spike in complaints from ratepayers about trucks parking in suburban streets, they're currently in talks with the Sydney Motorsport Park and the Sydney Dragway, and there's a proposal, Rod, to allow hundreds of trucks to park in the unused areas of the raceway at night.
Now, that's something we've been trying to arrange for years. Technically, by law, if you are in a residential area, and it depends on what state you're in, one calls it an area with street lighting, the other is curbing and channeling, you can't park a truck for more than an hour. There is a get out of jail clause, I think it's Rule 200 or something, that says that if you are operating under a fatigue rule, you're allowed to stay there because, we've got to have a 7-hour break legally every day, a continuous 7-hour break under our logbook rules. But yes, we've had trouble that there aren't enough sites for interstate truckies. So you go to the major sites and there is a BP at Eastern Creek, mate. Normally you can't swing a cat in there. There's all people parked up because they've come from Melbourne or Brisbane overnight. But the change has been people that buy a truck and they go and work it during the day and they don't have a yard or a facility to park it, so they'll go and park it in the truck stop overnight, or they'll park it up and down Sydney streets. And it's not just Sydney. Sydney's been the worst. And if you turn up and you can't park, what do? We've still got to manage our fatigue. We've got to comply with the law. But where in the past there was more, I suppose, structured things where Fred would have his trucks and he'd have a yard and he'd park them all in the yard at night and they'd go to work the next day. There seems to be a lot more individuals and people that won't buy a facility to park their truck, so they just dump them in residential areas overnight. It's good to see that Blacktown's doing it. It was one of the councils that used to be really officious in fining us. If you pulled up overnight to unload in the morning, the coppers would come out and knock you off. So, mate, it's an excellent idea. We'd certainly love to see that bloody rest area started and built rather than still being talked about. The land's there, the money's there, we want it done. But it's a terrific idea, mate, and I hope that it comes to fruition and provides a template for other councils and cities to do something as well.
All right, we've covered a fair bit in Truckee Tuesday today. My question for our listeners is the best roadhouse that's still operating in Australia, doesn't matter where it is, WA, Northern Territory, South Australia, even Tassie. I want to know the best roadhouse in Australia. I want to know why. Do you know what's on the menu? And what hours are they open? I'd really like to hear. And the Burke and Wills Roadhouse will try and get onto the current owners. And I'd like to take a peek behind the scenes. What's it like running a roadhouse? Is there any money in it? I wonder if these people have made a decent living, have got a little nest egg now and they're retiring, or are they getting out because business is bad, Rod?
I'm sure it's dropped off, Luke, compared to what it was. And it depends on where you are and what your traffic levels are, whether you get those. So I suppose the other part to that, Luke, is if there's somebody out there that wants to nominate the best one, we certainly want to hear that. You've asked why. Is it the staff? Sometimes it's simply that they treat you like family and they look after you and you get a good home-cooked meal as opposed to fast food. But my extended question is, how much has the closure of those facilities affected your life as a driver? Has it meant it's harder for you to stay fit? Is it harder to get good food? What's the one thing that where those people operating a business, as you say, they've got to be profitable. They do it to make a profit. But with the closure and the changes in those roadhouses, how has it affected you personally as a truck driver?
Yeah, and why did people steal shower heads from their shower? that is
absolutely unanswerable questions.
That has absolutely got me buggered. And why would a 16-year-old want to throw an object from a bridge onto a truck? Unbelievable. If you've got some opinions, please share them, and we love the voice messages so we can hear your voice. If you'd like to be part of the production of Bonafide with Truckee Tuesday, leave your details on your email and we will get back in touch with you. Luke Boner Radio Guy at gmail.com. Our Facebook is Luke Boner That Radio Guy. It's the Bonafide podcast available everywhere. And Rocket Rod Hannafy, safe trip from Wagga. Where are you heading?
Heading home, mate. I just haven't made it home yet. My EWD is going to be very cranky with me if I don't get home by 4 o'clock. And at this stage, I should be there by about 1:32 and heading off to Brisbane on Monday at this stage.
All right. The Truckee Tuesday segment would not be possible without our sponsor, Ice Pack, the original Aussie sleeper cab air con. Trusted for over 30 years and the toughest there is. For a limited time in Brisbane, you'll get 10% off a new install plus free auto start kit. It's worth $680, but only when you use the code LUKE10, LUKE10, LUKE10. And there's one per customer. Hit up icepack.com.au and check the link in the description. Good to hear your voice, mate. You drive carefully.
Sign off from Truckee Tuesday. Safe travelling to all.
10-4, good buddy. So, thank you once again for bearing with us on this episode 55 of Bonafide with me and the...
Luke, we've got to give away a Toots book.
We have. This is the book about Australia's most famous female trucker.
It is. So, if you want a copy of the Toots book, perhaps leave us a voicemail.
What's your favourite roadhouse? Where is it? What's on the menu? What hours do they operate? But we want a description. We want you to sell it. Can you believe people steal shower nozzles from these places?
Yeah. If you have a crazy story at a roadhouse.
Yeah, what's your crazy story? Patrick Swayze, have you seen that movie?
No.
It's fantastic. The Bonafide podcast where we don't tell you what to think. We just give you something to think about.
Well, Luke, I actually have a thought of the day that was submitted to us by Steve, Nathan's dad. Are you ready for this?
Okay, this is Steve, Kelsey's future father-in-law.
Yes.
This is his thought for the day.
He said, be good to your children. They're the ones that will pick your nursing home.
Nursing home.
And I could not agree more, Steve. I think that is a very, very wise thought of the day.
He and his lovely wife, your future mother-in-law,
Lisa,
are they still on holidays caravanning around the country?
Oh, you betcha.
When are they back?
At the end of the year sometime.
I can't wait to talk to him about his trip. Fix it up for me, Kelsey. I want to hear where they've been, the pros and cons of being a grow mate, the pros and cons of being a grey mate. Oh, please don't put this in the fucking jar.
Stupid glitches.
The pros and cons of being a grey nomad and dealing with traffic and our highways and the availability of roadhouses.
Yeah, that's a good question. Let's do it.
I'm supposed to be going on a holiday sometime soon, and I think we may not be able to go because of work commitments.
Oh.
It's a bit tragic, actually, because we had to tell our luggage, and now I'm coping with all this emotional baggage.
Oh, my God.
Goodbye.
Couldn't help yourself, could you?
Need a post-show pick-me-up? I know what I'm grabbing. Nature Bee's new Power Bee Bite Bars, packed with protein, boosted with pollen, and they're bloody tasty too. And they're just $14.95 a box. Pair them with your Power Pollen capsules. You're going to thank me later. You can grab a 6-month supply of Power Pollen for just $160, and they'll throw in an extra month and 2 bars of their famous pollen and honey soap for free. Nature Bee's got everything you need to keep energized all day, every day. Do not wait. The ultimate wellness routine is just a click away. Head to the description now